Well, I know.
You're
I'm just
the
asking
boss.
if everyone's ready,
You
though.
tell us we're ready.
All right, you're ready.
Good.
So we'll call to order at 7:02. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We're going to review, review agenda for additional and removal or adjustments of any items per VSA 312.
The only adjustment I want to make is to the consent agenda, and that is to clarify that the item dealing with the water line connection on Firehouse Drive, that if the select board does approve this under the consent agenda, that it would include the conditions recommended by our water operator, which were articulated in the town administrator's report.
And Valerie, just point of order on that. Can we put that in the consent agenda or select board? Because that's really water commissioner's decision.
Oh, that's true. Correct.
It's tit for tat, but
Yep.
should
Good
that be
point.
voted separately because it's water commissioners?
Correct.
Okay. So overview of Zoom meeting operation and procedures. Rules for participation. Please mute your microphones if you are on Zoom, and please be recognized by the chair if you want to ask a question. You can also put a question in the chat, and we'll try to get to it as soon as possible. All right, public forum. Anyone have anything for public forum this evening? You all here for regular business?
Oops, sorry.
Oh, I see you. Sally?
Hi. I have just been learning lately about something that might be really helpful for Bristol. And that is this new, the thermal energy networks that are really being talked about for a group of homes and businesses and downtown and municipal buildings saving on heat. And the best time to install anything like this is right when you're replacing water mains. That's what made me think of Bristol, because it's like, whoa, this is the time that you could really save a lot of money creating these networks. And there's been a lot of talk lately. There's a new bill in the legislature about it. I've been going to some webinars. A man named Jay Egg has helped design these programs, and they're all around the country and in different countries. New York is really jumping on board, and Framingham, Mass is doing a really large one right now. The idea is, heating and cooling with geothermal technology. And Vermont Gas is getting excited about it because they would be the type of group that would be helping build out this kind of work. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it out and say it out loud because it could be something really exciting and profitable or I don't know if profitable is the word, but a way that a lot of people could save on energy with this new way of all being in on the same closed underground water circuit as a place to exchange heat and cool. And it works really well when you mix places that create waste heat and others that need heat. Then you're really sharing energy. That's why it makes it cheaper. And it's all local. You're not having to bring in any fuel except electricity to run the program, to run the thing. Anyway, there's lots of, there's some webinars, I could share, or you could just look up thermal energy networks, or Jayegg, Jayegg is the man who taught this particular webinar I went to. And
Sally, is this anything that the Energy Commission has talked about?
I can't remember if we talked about it at the last meeting, but because I don't know if we learned about it as much before that meeting. I think that certainly other people on the Energy Committee have heard about it, but it's so new that it's not like we're sitting around talking about it at Energy Committee meetings yet, really.
Gotcha.
Um,
So is this in conjunction with municipal or private water?
it's often a mix, like, well, municipal, okay, it is not mixed with municipal water. It is, but when you put in the water lines, you've just made a nice trough. That's a great time to put in the pipes that would be for a network. And it could, you've just got the road opened, why ever do that again when it's the time to do it when you've got the road open.
Gotcha. So put the
yeah.
infrastructure in while the ground is open.
Yeah, that's the
got
whole.
it.
And if
That
it's,
makes
if
more
it's geo,
sense.
yeah, if it's geothermal, you've got a single source or multiple sources that are connected to it that are actually providing the heating and cooling. But I think as Sally said, I think it's like being able to lay pipe to homes to take advantage of that. But it's very interesting, Sally. Thanks for telling us.
I think that people would have to put their own pipes into their homes, but to get the main network that might surround a village or something, that all would happen, that could all happen when the roads are opened.
Right.
Anyway, just
Super,
thought I'd
thank
throw
you.
it out there.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you,
Sally.
Sally.
Thanks for listening.
Great. Anyone else for public forum? Nope. All right, thank you. Moving on to department head roundtable. Let's see, who do we have? Mark, we missed you last week. Mark Bouvier, are you available to talk with us? Where'd he go?
He moved.
He moved.
He's there.
Yeah, Patty was going to speak as well. I'm not sure if she's on, but
Yep, she's there.
okay.
She's
I'm not
muted
sure
right
if
now.
I'm not sure if we're still official because I perused over Valerie's list of elected and appointed officials and nowhere are the listers listed.
Good to know.
So I guess we're not official anymore, are we, Valerie? Being a
You're
little
elected, Mark. You
You're
guys are
elected.
elected.
You're
We have no
elected.
control.
Yeah,
appointed.
well, the select board starts right off as elected and so
If we haven't been appointed, then let's get.
yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the town officials appointment list?
Yes, and we're not on there. I
Ooh,
went through it 3 or 4 times. I said, well, I guess we must have ticked Valerie off so that she kept us off. So,
I don't
but,
think that's the case.
I don't think
okay.
so. Are there things
Patty, are
we
you
need to
on?
know about?
I'm
Yeah,
here.
Patty's here.
All right, Patty, you were going to speak. I've talked longer than I should
Well,
have.
and you can pop in whenever you want. We are busy finishing up our inspections for that have to be done as of April 1st. I think we're in a pretty good place and we will then be inputting the information into the system and that will take a little bit of time. We have a few property transfers to still do, but maybe 10 more that I think need to get done, and they're mostly trusts and that kind of thing. So it's not affecting new values to anything. And they're not counted in our sales equalization study because they're not considered a valid transfer. So that's what's taking most of our time right now. And the other thing that is of interest is there's a bill been introduced to our legislatures. And basically what it says is they're thinking about going to a statewide reappraisal system. What that means is the towns wouldn't be hiring their own appraisers to do the reappraisal. And we have hit the threshold where if this doesn't pass, they're going to send us a letter saying we need to reappraise. There are limited people that can do that, and they're 3 and 4 years out. So it's not going to be an immediate reappraisal. What we're seeing now is the property values have gone up in some instances more than double what they're in the books. So that's of concern. We're at 80%, the threshold is 85. But this new bill does away with the towns doing it. It becomes a state agency under property evaluation and review. It's going to take the $100,000 that they have for education funds for listers, and they're moving it to another section. So that doesn't really change anything. They're repealing the $850 per parcel that the towns get now to help with the reappraisal. They're going to appropriate $50,000 to contract with one or more consultants to prepare an implementation team or plan. If you hear squeaking, it's the dog, and I apologize. He thinks we're here to play. Trying to stop her, but my foot doesn't. She's stronger than my foot. I believe that hang on a second. See that. Go lay down. Go lay down. You're not listening. Sorry. I'm not sure what that does if they go to a statewide system and grievances, because they're trying to make it more fair and equitable. But if we're not doing the reappraising and we don't really have too much input, then I don't know how you defend a grievance if the state doesn't step in and pick up that piece of it. Let's see, what else did they say? They're going to give this PVR money to get this set up and have a separate, it says, they'll appropriate $2,540,000 annually from the general fund to property evaluation and review. And I guess that covers the reappraisal costs. There is some talk about what happens to the listers and whether they're elected, or it's unclear to me. See if I can find it in here. Now, the select boards can notify PVR of a vote to eliminate the office of the lister and employ a contractor professionally qualified assessor. So I don't know if that means that they're going to do that or if they're going to leave us alone. They're talking about certain requirements for education and training in order to be a lister. And I guess you have to meet those qualifications in order to be a lister. I've taken training throughout the year when they offer it, but I don't know if I have the appropriate training per se. So anyway, that's on the books. They're also going to create, I believe, more categories for homestead and non-homestead properties. Whether I don't have any information on that other than they're looking at changing the categories, and I don't know what that does to the homestead. Mark, do you have anything on that? Is he still there?
I'm still
Yeah.
here. No, I think that's, you've summarized it well, Patty. The other thing, not in that same vein, but we've met with Aleph a couple of times and had been very helpful, and he's been off working on some of the bigger pieces in, i.e. firehouse apartments and a few of those, and he's done some small ones, and we've been able to bounce off questions that we've had. So but as Patty alluded to at the beginning, this is it for us. March 31st is the line in the sand where we have to, we can enter the data next week and the week after, but we have to have any inspections done. And the other piece, it's been a good, having Doug Corkins on board. He's a former longtime select board number. Doug has a little bit of background in some construction areas, and so he's been a good help. And the other very plus that Doug brings is that as a longtime Bristol resident, he knows a lot of people. I think sometimes he knows more than I do of the number of folks in town. So that's been very helpful, and he's been a good addition to the team. And so I think that's about it, Patty, isn't it?
I think so.
Yep. So
Great.
Do
Sure,
you know the status of this bill? Did the bill make crossover, or is it still stuck in whichever, the House or the Senate?
I believe it came out of the committee a couple nights ago, Peaker. The group listserv amongst listers in the state of Vermont, a lot of them are really kind of in an uproar over this piece of legislation. Patty alluded to some of the issues in terms of, we'll do the appraisals, but local folks, you're going to handle all the grievances. That's just one of some of the pieces of it. I think the intent was that there's so many towns that are at that threshold where they need to do a reappraisal. And the dilemma we're running into is there's just not a lot of qualified individuals or firms out there to do that work for us. So that becomes an issue, and I think we would all be in agreement there. But I think some of the other aspects of that piece of legislation have got to be vetted a little bit better than they have been so far. But that's the purpose of the process. And
Yeah,
we
I'm
have
just
not
asking if it made crossover, because if it didn't, it won't be
Right.
passed this year.
go in the biennium. Yeah, go into next year. So
The summary was from March 17th.
So
And
Crossover was
We
last
made
Friday.
crossover. That's crossover.
one of the
Is that
emails I
crossover?
read, somebody said it was they were voting on it coming out of committee. But Peaker, I don't know. I will find out and let Valerie know so she can share that information as to whether it made the crossover deadline.
And we have a copy of that bill if you are interested in reading it. You can just let us know.
Yeah, if you want to email it to us, that'd be great. Then when we do have an opportunity, we can take a look at it. But I trust your summary as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a good idea or not. I think some of the education requirements, I haven't seen them. I don't know how involved they are. I mean, it may be so that nobody wants to do it. I know I took an appraisal course, and at the end they say, oh, by the way, you got to work for somebody for 2 years as an intern and not get paid. Well, that put me out of the ballpark because I couldn't work for 2 years for nothing.
Right.
So I don't know what this involves, and I don't think any of us will know that.
Well, and it's unfortunate they probably don't either. They have a habit of passing bills and trying to figure out how they operate afterwards. It's
Well, I think
unfortunate.
they need to sit in our seats before they make any determinations.
Yeah, I've seen it happen to other professions where a well-intended professionalizing the field becomes nobody's in the field.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, you guys. Is there anything else
Thank
we
you.
need to know?
No, I'm going to jump off because my wife says dinner's ready. So
All right.
And I'm going to jump off too, unless you need me.
No, thank you, Patty.
Okay,
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
good night, all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Thanks. Let's see, Anthony, are you ready to talk to us?
Yeah, I can talk to you. Let's see what I've been working on. I've been closing the circle on the revolving loan fund. I have access now to the documentation, so that's even better. I'm also working on rewriting our credit card process further. I have half of it done, but there's another department I need to address, so that's pretty exciting. Trying to think if there's any others. Oh, I spoke with the auditor on Friday. They gave me the final list. This is the last bit that they need. They just want a little bit more proof on a couple more of our balance sheet numbers And Sharon and I have been working to try to figure out the differential between the AP module and the AP number on the balance sheet. I guess she would like more information on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, who else? Meredith, I see you up there.
All right, so pretty excited about Zach starting on Monday. He's got an outline of training, paperwork, and pretty much like a field trip around town set for Monday. We just had a contra dance this last Saturday on the 25th. It was amazing. I would say we'd had about 60 people. We had the windows open and the door open with a fan. It was masks. It was on their own responsibility. And we had BES here selling their refreshments and baked goods for their 6th grade class. And whenever we do these contra dances, this is a live band that's playing. So if you're not, even if you're not there for the dancing, the sound is so good. So we have another one tentatively for May 6th in here. And I'm just going to kind of read off some of the important dates that are happening. So April 22nd is a blood drive here at Holly Hall. Actually, April 18th, the Bristol Rec and Sharon from Bristol Rescue Squad, we're going to have a CPR AED class. So I know there's a lot of folks that need to re-up that. So if any of you need to, just reach out to me and I can get you on the list. And then, May 6th is the contra dance. May 13th is the Human Power Parade. I will be on the agenda before that to just kind of talk to you all about the parade route that we're thinking about this year. Again, we're not going to cross the North Street. It's just too dangerous. It's easier to just keep everybody on the other side. And then June 24th, mark your calendars. It is the townwide yard sale. I do know that the Grand Fondo is planning on operating that same day. That shouldn't be a conflict. And with the townwide yard sale, we will be having spots on the town green available for folks. And that will be a different price point for signing up for that program. And then last year was a big success. So I definitely know if it's sunny out, there could be a lot of traffic in town. So I just want that on everybody's radar. And then if anybody's interested in being a lifeguard, shout out to me. And we are trying to work on a lifeguard certification class, either at Mount Abe or working with Bill Clark from Virgins. And that'll allow us to operate some swim programs. And we will have swim during April break. Right now I'm trying to get lessons, but if we don't do lessons, we will still do community swim, but we'll open it up for 2 other sessions in the morning because we have the pool from 8 to 12 during that time. Other than that, all our camps, like I said last time, they're full. Depending on Zach and how his comfort level is, we may open the river camp up to 5 more spots. But I really want to make sure he's comfortable with that because that's the programs he's going to be running. Other than that, everything's great. Like I said, the Holly Hall is busy with birthdays, mostly birthdays, and then just events that the Bristol Rec Department is running. That's it in a nutshell.
There's a question in the chat about what is the date and time of the CPR class?
Okay, Tuesday, April 18th, 6:30 to 9
PM.
PM. Yep, sorry. And that's going to be at the Bristol Rec Squad, which is, I think, 45. I can't
54 Moncton Road.
Yes, thank you, Joel.
Thanks.
Can't be 54, it's gotta be an odd number, it's on the left.
Maybe it's 58, 53.
56, yeah.
It's on
All
the
right.
left.
Thanks, Meredith.
If you don't know where it is.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You get to
Oh.
Champlain Valley Plumbing, you've gone too far.
That's right. Turn around and go back.
Or the animal
You
hospital.
get the Moncton Ridge, gone too far.
Thank you. And good luck to your new hire on Monday.
Thank you.
Great. Brett, you're up. Brett LaRose. Hey,
Good
your
evening,
camera's
everybody.
on.
Yeah, it works. I'll keep this brief, as I know you folks have a very long agenda. I'll hit a couple of the highlights. I guess first and foremost, I make my official ask to be placed on the April 10th Select Board meeting agenda. This is for the Conex box training structure I mentioned a couple weeks ago to you folks. So the working group, this 4-person working group, will be doing a presentation to you all. And if it is possible to squeeze us in on that agenda, I'll ask if we can be right up front and first on your agenda. It would be appreciated because we will all be there in person.
Right.
And I don't want to ask a bunch of firefighters to wait around too long. Let's see. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of the statewide fire department recruiting effort that is underway. It's called Operation Mayday. This is Vermont's first coordinated statewide recruitment initiative. So a lot of media's campaigning is going to be going on. Just last week, we, the Bristol Fire Department, our station, we were one of 6 departments selected in the state where WCX showed up, and they asked to interview someone. So one of our new recruits, a young man, he volunteered and he was on video, and we spent a couple hours with them, and they did a lot of shots around the fire station too. So that was pretty exciting. But anyway, on Saturday, May 13th from 9 to 1, they're asking all fire departments in the state to open up their doors, kind of an open house, and it can be as little as literally just opening your doors to, having a big recruitment event, open house type event, and that is what we are planning on doing. One of our firefighters, Greg Swain, he's leading this initiative. He put on a great presentation at our March staff meeting to everyone and kind of laid out the goals and objectives. But we plan on hopefully doing something similar to our 125-year anniversary celebration we had back in the fall of 2019. That was a long time ago, but if any of you remember that was a pretty busy day at the fire station, topped off with the medical flight helicopter landing on the front lawn. So, and other than that, just tomorrow night, I guess worth noting, as the fire station continues to get regular use by outside entities, tomorrow night we're hosting a Addison County Firefighters Association training seminar, CPR. So Bristol firefighters will be there along with our counterparts from neighboring departments. So that's what's going on in the fire department. It's kind of the highlights. So that's all I got, pending any questions.
Great. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Question? No questions? Great. What do we have?
Chief, somewhere.
What's that?
Where's the chief?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Are you ready?
Yes. So with the warmer weather, we're seeing a lot more traffic, not just foot traffic, but bicycles and vehicles. So a friendly reminder that when you enter the former village, the maximum safe speed limit is 30 miles an hour. And please be cautious of increased pedestrian traffic.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's it? Okay, that was quick. Eric?
Hi.
Hi. Do you have anything you'd like to tell us about? We missed you last week.
Yeah, no, it's just been one of them winters, thankfully is winding down, I hope it. So we've been dealing with a lot of potholes lately with the rains and the cold and the warm and just nonstop trying to keep up with them. Not starting, but continuing on our winter maintenance to get stuff ready for spring and summer. We just got the excavator all completely serviced and ready to go. So just plugging on.
And no more snowstorms, right?
God, I hope not.
Wednesday night, 2 to 3.
All right, I think it's,
Actually, Eric, you mentioned something that you wanted to bring up tonight in the department heads roundtable, and it's escaping my memory right now.
Yeah, good, me too.
No. You wanted to bring it to the select board's attention, something about replacing something?
Replacing something.
Oh, the tank, the diesel tank thing, the,
Oh, yeah, right. So, yeah, thank you. Right now, we get our DF fluid through Alliance. We get them in 55-gallon drums. So they are, what are they, here over $4 a gallon right now to get them through there. I called a company that supplies our diesel fuel for us, and he gave me a name to call that does bulk DF. And so I did, I called them, and we can get it through that vendor for the DEF fluid, for $2.79 a gallon. He supplies the tank, the pump, 30 feet of hose. So just food for thought, wondering what the board thinks about that idea. It does have to be placed inside the garage. It can't be outside the freeze or sun contact, because it'll crystallize the DF the longer it sits in the sun. So it's got to be inside a building, which we're going to put it in the gray barn in between the doors, so they can just back up outside and run the hose outside and fill it up.
That's one of those 300-gallon totes.
Yeah, the way he was talking, yeah.
That's what Betches is.
Yeah, and they supply the pump,
Yeah, they
the
do
hose,
everything.
And then they come to you, I don't know how often they come, when they call, or if you set it up on an automatic delivery plan, I don't know. I gotta talk to them more about that part of it, but.
I think if it's one of those totes, they probably, when it's empty, they bring you another one. I don't think they fill it.
The way he was talking was they.
Betcha they do. They pump off their truck in
okay.
with the Betches
Yeah, 'cause
tank.
then you'd have to. switch
Betches
the
is
pump.
inside.
But anyways, yeah, the way he was talking, that they fill them. So,
Eric, do you have a time frame?
for that,
Yeah.
no, it was just something I was considering. I checked on it to see if it would be a savings, doing it bulk like that, and it's almost a $2 a gallon savings. So,
Okay. How long would that last you?
the tote,
Yeah.
in the winter time with the trucks, depending on the plowing, of course, the more you work them or harder you work them, the more you go through. So we've gone through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just in the winter time, we've gone through about 6 barrels.
Yeah, and the other side of that is you've gone through 6 barrels, you got 6 empty barrels sitting over there that
No,
you've got,
no.
oh,
They come-
they take them?
I send them back.
Oh, good.
Yep. Yeah,
'Cause
they
don't
actually.
take ours.
Huh?
They don't take ours.
Who, Alliance?
No, I don't get it through Alliance.
Oh, okay. Alliance will take them back. They had it when you first did it, that it was a $25 fee if they didn't get the barrel back. Now they waived the fee, and when they come deliver our tank, our barrels, I just throw them on the truck and he takes them back.
So how much is in a barrel?
55 gallons.
5 gallons.
In the summertime, you go through
6 times 50,000.
Yeah.
a third of it in the summertime. You don't go through nearly as much in the
I
summertime.
think Betches tank is 300 gallons. I
That's what
think
you said, it
Betches
was, it
is
was
300
300.
gallon tank.
Yeah. So one tank will probably get us just about through the winter. And then, of course, top it off, you have it, it easily gets you through the summer.
And probably part of the winter,
Yeah, to
Yeah.
start the winter,
start
yeah.
the winter, yeah.
I guess the only thing I would do is watch your budget. If you think you can get it before July 1st, get it. If not, get it afterwards.
Well, that's what I was just gonna do, is
Yeah.
probably check on it.
I
and
don't think
see.
I don't think it's something that, I mean, that's a operating cost. It's not something
Right.
we have to approve.
No, I understand. I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention and all that, that's all.
Okay, you got it. Thanks, Eric.
So I get a turn?
So,
And you get a turn.
oh,
She forgot.
I know, I have Jill, and I have your name on there, and I have Jill on here,
Oh,
so
okay.
you go right ahead, Sharon.
Hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have the water read bills out. They finished it last week, and we just have a couple, hopefully the download will work well. We put the new software onto a different computer, so we can get rid of the computer that's on Anthony's desk, the old one that doesn't work very well. So, and I'm also on a time crunch with the listers. Any closings that happen this week will need to be put in as soon as we get them. And then I'll have to start tracking closings after April 1st separately until the grand list is done. Still have some election stuff to do. We're gonna have to purge the checklist this year, so I'll have to start working on that and finish inputting the voters for town meeting. Overweight permits are running along. We've got quite another stack for you to do. Yep. Yeah, dog licenses are due. We pushed it to Monday because the 1st is a Saturday and taxes are due on the 15th. We pushed that to Monday because that's a Saturday as well. And I have my signs up, so I've already had some people run into here. Say, oh my God, I forgot.
It's not the 17th yet, so you're still ahead of the game.
That's right.
Federal's not due to the 18th.
Anything else, Sharon?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill and Cy.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So Aaron already covered that the water read is done. The consumer confidence report, which is the water quality report, we actually got it early in the state and we've already put it into the template. So if Valerie
We'll
gets
put that in with the water bill.
that, yeah, so we got it out a quarter early. Yay! So that's kind of thing. Few things as far as possibly design of the water line replacements. We have secured a leak detection professional for April 10th, 11th, and 12th. He's coming on the 10th. He plans on doing the pretty much correlating the entire system on the first day. On the second day, he'll go ahead and look at each area where he sees the spikes on the correlation and kind of, pinpoint the leak. And then on the third day, he's going to get right down into where to actually dig for the leaks that he finds, because we've still got that concerning higher water usage of about 100,000 gallons a day more than we normally have. This time, the other, when I look at the weather, starting next Monday night, I don't see freezing temps at night or during the day, so we should be able to shut the blow off at Sargent's and really start to see what the water system is using without that. So
Oops. We're losing you, Jill. You keep breaking up. I'm sorry.
Oh, is this, hold on, let me take it off of.
That's,
I think
just having it closer to you is better.
Is that better? Okay. I'm
that's, that's really close.
Yeah. Whoa. So the state did approve the scope of services for the service line inventory. They have to go through 3 more steps to get us the loan agreement. And the surprise that came in that is that the 2 consecutive exempt water systems are also doing the service line inventory. We get to do theirs. So,
yay.
Yeah, so be it. I'm making little lemons and whatever. So we'll do it. Get done. Get inventory done.
You're breaking up again, Jill. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. The internet isn't super fantastic here.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for here. I mean, everything else Steve will go over in the second part of the meeting, so I won't drag it out here. Do you guys have any questions?
Jill, just that water that I mentioned to you a week or so ago, did you ever look into that water leak?
I still have to pop over there with a packet. I did not get over there.
Okay.
I should be able to do that tomorrow after. Have to run and clear a boil water first thing in
Give
the
me a
morning.
text and I might be able to meet you there around 4:30.
Okay.
You want to do that? Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Thank you. Did I miss anybody?
I believe so.
I think I got everybody. If I didn't get you, speak now. I think we're all good. Thanks. Okay, so moving on to our consent agenda. Let's see.
Hopefully folks had a chance to review the town admin report with the summaries and recommendations. Some of those items listed do include recommendations that are intended to be incorporated in any approval. And just to quickly recap, if there are any topics on the consent agenda that folks feel the need to discuss, it should be taken off and put under regular business for later discussion.
So Joel mentioned the water one. Do you want to take that off, Joel, or are you okay keeping it on the consent?
I just point of order, is that a water commissioner approval and not select board? Even though
Right,
they're the
that was a
same?
good clarification.
So I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda for 1 through 7 and 9 through 12 and leave 8 off as a regular business.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, and then I have a question on item 9 about the no mow May. So can you clarify, Val? I mean, they're not putting it on Sycamore Park, it's just gonna be Eagle Park?
Correct.
And whoever mows our Eagle Park, are they aware that they're not mowing?
Not yet. Well, maybe. I did not talk with Meredith about that particular thing. We talked about Sycamore Park, but not Eagle Park.
Okay. That was my only question.
That shouldn't be a problem, I don't think.
I got a question on that. So the no mow May, does that include me for mowing roadsides?
No, this is just Eagle Park.
Just Eagle Park, okay, gotcha, perfect.
I had in terms of, the no mowing, I just wanted clarification on that, which I got from the Conservation Commission chair. And I agree with Val's note about approving items herself if they're under a certain threshold. Number 3, number 4, and number 6, I would be fine with Val doing that in the future and not having it not be on our agenda.
Yeah, the reoccurring ones, we decided that last year.
Yeah. All right, so let's take those off for next year.
And which one got moved to regular business?
The water service.
Number 7.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, 8. Apologize. 8. And then I had one other question, which was for number 6, Homeward Bound. I was curious about the services for stray animals to be taken to Homeward Bound. I wondered how many times that happens a year. How often do we use that service?
It was in the town report. I don't remember the numbers that they took this year. Do you remember, Val? But I know it was in the town report.
Bruce, do you know off the top of your head?
I only know the ones that we bring.
Right.
We do probably twice a year. Yeah.
There wasn't that many. There's not usually that many that come from Bristol. They're usually from Bruce.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. So for this part, just so I'm clear, so for this part of the section, we don't need to go through each of these
No.
one by one. Okay, so we're moving on.
No,
We had a vote.
We had a vote.
Yeah, just
Sorry,
one motion
I'm
should take care of
here.
them all.
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion?
They did.
What?
They did.
You gotta have the motion before you can have
Goodness,
discussion.
okay. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He ended.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay, hearing none, we are all good.
And I would recommend moving item number 8, I recommend that it would go either after item number 3 under regular business or after the Pine Street discussion.
Okay,
5A?
Sure.
okay. Please remind me when we get there.
Don't you worry.
I know. You guys have me all taken care of here. All right, so that moves us on to, where are we? Regular business, correct? Okay. Regular business. We're looking at the Munsell Avenue Sidewalk Scoping Study, final report and presentation for Du Bois and King with Dan Mal.
Good evening, all. Thanks very much. May I share my screen?
Oh, yes, hang on just a moment here.
Thanks very much, Rob.
Got it.
Appreciate it. All right. righty, can everybody see what's the cover of the scoping study document that we're handing off to the township? The town?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, a scoping study, and this has been funded by VTrans and the town, is a higher level view of technical feasibility, planning level, higher level costs, estimates, and public feedback on what individuals, particularly residents or other people that might use Munsell Avenue, who work there, who might go there, would want to see along the street. And we started this process a little over a year ago. You'll see a photo that I took in January of 2022 when we just heard we had the contract. So tonight I'll be highlighting a few of the process items of the scoping study and the recommendations that came out of this process, working with a great steering committee and members of your select board. Thank you. And show what the final recommendation was and talk a little bit about what next steps might be. So the need for it is evident through its use, its relationship to various town businesses, to the facilities of Bristol Works, from the police station to the medical office, and as well as a way to get to recreation fields and Mount Abraham. And we saw on these images, the upper two were from our original kickoff with members of the steering committee in March, just about a year ago. And in May there on the lower left, and that's the photo from January with a fellow who's actually a resident of Munsell Avenue. We're also looking at the roadway characteristics in addition, and this is where we start getting into feasibility and discussions of right-of-way and understanding the street geometry as it relates to the building setbacks and the trees. And as is typical, the right-of-way along Munsell Avenue is about 50 feet, 49.5 feet, what they call 3 rods, which would be pretty typical. And like a lot of other adjacent streets around it, from Liberty to Church to Elm to Pleasant, that crosses it, a lot of which do have sidewalks. So that's part of the need, making the connections and along Munsell Avenue, but also making sure it's part of a larger town-wide network where people can walk for recreation, work, school, what have you. This is the entire table of contents of the document. I'm not going to go through all these, but you see a little bit of the types of things that a scoping study looks at in accordance with VTrans, step by step by step, include all these things. Looking at the existing conditions, some of which we'll show you, coming up with a very specific purpose and need. And so it's well-defined, and it's sort of our guide star throughout the process. Looking at a number of different alternatives, which we'll briefly touch on, putting it out to the public for their feedback, and then thinking about, okay, drill down a bit, funnel all this information into a plan that helps you move forward if town wishes. Utilities and structures. So a lot of this comes from open source state GIS. And so if you move forward to construction engineering for this project, the next step would really be to get a better field survey handle on these things, because both the lot lines that you see here, which suggests the width of the right of way, as well as the phone poles and the inlets and the hydrants and the lower one, the water lines, they're pretty accurate. But when you're building something that's just 5 feet wide, you want to make sure whether it's roots or pipes that you know precisely where they are. So this GIS data was, field tested as well. We were out there with rollers trying to make sure. So it's reasonably accurate for the purposes of planning, but not exactly for engineering. I noticed what I sent to the town had a typo on this utilities page. I'll make sure that that's corrected. What it didn't say is how deep the water pipes are, which is useful. And according to Jill, thank you for supplying this information, about 5.5 to 7+ feet deep on the water. And there are also curb boxes about 1 to 3 feet off the edge. And you'll see the portion of these water pipes is on the west side as you're coming in off West Street up to Pleasant, but it does switch over to the east side as you head from Pleasant up to Bristol Works. And that'll be important when we talk about the preferred alternative. We looked at stormwater, obviously, and here's another opportunity for synergy. As Sally mentioned with thermal energy networks, here's another one, because we know that this intersection of Munsell and Pleasant is, at least on a concept stage, improvements for managing some of the stormwater, which tends to go slightly west to east. The road's not exactly crowned, it's a little more of a west to east flow, and that shows up in particular in certain areas like the intersection with Pleasant. But whether it's flaggers on a project or sharing fencing, what have you, personnel out there, combining a sidewalk project on Munsell Avenue, if you choose to do so, with a stormwater management, especially at that intersection, could be really useful. The scoping study looks at environmental resources. There's not a lot here, as you can imagine, a project that runs along a wetland or a river. A lot of these would, show up. That would require additional permitting. It wouldn't necessarily halt a project, but here we're fortunate. We already know what we have along Munsell Avenue primarily, but also the cultural resources are interesting. This picture here is an illustration from 1889 showing just the one house there at 60 West and then a whole lot of street trees. And we did find in the public engagement portion, no surprise, the street trees that are there that people love and cherish. And that's important when it comes to actually building a sidewalk. And so your tree warden, John Swepston, was generous with his time. We actually went up and down the whole corridor together, looking at each tree for at least these planting purposes. But as you know, every tree is a little different. And when it comes to laying it out, I'd encourage you to continue to work with your tree warden and even be on the job during excavation, because even something like cutting flush and exposed root and putting like wet burlap over it for the duration of the project can be really useful and make all the difference in saving a tree or stressing a tree and that kind of thing. And there's also potentially pruning of the hedge. We'll talk about it later up by Bristol Works. If a sidewalk goes in that way, and someone who knows what they're doing with pruning should really work on those cedars, because it's an art and a science. We looked at other things, fences, you know what they are, fences, rocks, hedges. These are important to people, but the town does have a choice to work within the right of way to put public access through. But those are discussions that have to be had with respect with each property owner and work out whether a fence needs to be shifted, what have you, or a tree removed and replaced, which in our cost estimates we do account for. So these are the four alternatives that with the steering committee we came up with. On the upper left, a curbed sidewalk on the west side of the street. It has some advantages of being relatively, straight and flat with maybe fewer trees. If you have a curbed sidewalk, you're also thinking about stormwater, because you then need inlets or dry wells as the stormwater is conveyed down the channel of the curb. Where's it going to go? Not out on West Street, but into inlets every 100 feet or so. Upper right is the same, but on the east side, on the Bristol Works side, toward the village, a curb sidewalk. We also explored what's typical on a lot of the streets right around here is the buffered. So you have the 3 or 4 foot wide swath of green. Then the sidewalk, that's the east side. And we explored for the purpose of discussion, I know this isn't the first time this term's come up in Bristol, or advisory lanes or something along those lines, where with a striping process, and it can be tested on a temporary basis in a central lane, cars, cyclists, and pedestrians share the space in a somewhat a dynamic kind of way. And that's a discussion that you can have. What we did for each was show a plan view. This is the one of the east sidewalk, uncurbed and buffered, just like a lot of the other sidewalks in the area. So for the purpose of this study, we're taking this upper level view, but still showing utility poles, particular trees, hedges, fences, whatnot, hydrants, which can be moved or removed. Hydrants, by the way, can be moved. Utility poles can be moved. It can be done, if the desire for the sidewalk is greater than the feasibility challenge or cost of doing so. And we created what's basically this conceptual section. We looked at specific areas that'll require additional focus or discussion with property owners. The fence there, right in the southeast corner at Pleasant. Hedge just a little further up on Munsell. It's a privet hedge. And these utility poles. And remember that photo of the car, because that comes up. What we're looking at here are 2 examples of how this works, and in particular, the one right at a driveway. And so the material, the concrete, would go straight across the throat of the driveway, whether it's pavement or dirt right now. Now, There are other considerations down the road to think about if that property owner wants to pave their driveway, but these are open discussions we have to have. But a continuous surface is a lot safer, a lot better for folks with mobility issues, wheelchairs, than changing into the driveway surface on a regular basis, because that's just less predictable. So that's our recommended treatment at driveways. We did do a lot of public engagement. We're talking about 2 blocks here. And so we got a mandate early on from the select board to, turn it up to 11 in terms of public engagement. So we actually put a flyer out at that March kickoff on folks' doors, telling people about what the scoping study was. My daughter and I actually went in May and put another one about the survey that was happening, the first survey. We advertised about 2 public meetings and the survey, and you'll see there were 2 surveys done. We doubled the number of people that participated from the first to the second, and that was nice to see. The first survey got 31 responses. You see large or a little over majority, half were residents of the street, but almost everyone spent some time on Munsell Avenue. Notably, the first survey, about 2/3 didn't want a sidewalk. But for those that did, they did think it should be on the east side. The second survey, which happened a couple months later after we refined those 4 alternatives, had a little more diversity and where folks are from in and around Bristol and whether they walk Munsell Avenue, and it flipped. We have here in blue about 2/3 would support the sidewalk along Munsell Avenue, and that's interesting and a data point. And all of this was put into this matrix: cost, construction feasibility, how many trees per side. This is a tool we use because, yeah, we can hear all this, but let's distill it in a way where we can kind of rank order things as a tool for the select board and the town to help make decisions. And so everything from how much support it received to the impact on utilities. For example, what's called no build solution, where the town decides to do nothing, and of course that's always an option, gets the highest score of 3, whereas some of the ones where it would encroach in on trees get lower scores. Or for example, pedestrian safety, that buffering right there, that 2.5 adds an extra distance of people walking along the sidewalk, so that received a higher score. And at the end of the day, we discussed this with the select board, and we're clustered fairly high. And any one of these can, throw things a little one way or the other. The curb sidewalk on the east side did receive the highest in this matrix. But then you have to factor in a bunch of other things: plowing with a curb sidewalk. What's the character of the neighborhood? The fact that folks park along those grass margins, and any number of other things. So I think the select board's decision to have what's called the preferred alternative of the east side buffered sidewalk was wise and wholly appropriate. And it costs, frankly, somewhat less than a curb sidewalk, more than somewhat, because of the materials and because you're not putting in those stormwater inlets along the edge. So what we did in the survey is we drilled down a little bit. We had the privilege of speaking with Thad about the circulation around there. And this Hino truck is similar to a length of a tow truck, for example. And so we had engineers here run these traffic modeling of turns from all different ways and what was feasible or possible. Because at one point we were considering, and we also proposed, extending the radius of that road. So actually that is a little more room at that corner. And then potentially at the top end, having a flush sidewalk, that's what that is, having a rain garden to catch some of the stormwater that's actually coming down toward West Street. And so there's a double opportunity there. And he conveyed that he doesn't use his back lot very often, so we felt comfortable. But all these things would have to be explored further during a construction phase. We looked at those hedges up at Munsell Avenue, and would it make sense to try to prune them back, or at some point build a fence with shrubs? And it's not an either or. You can try pruning them with a professional tree care person and see how well they stay green. They've been around for a few decades. They're great. They provide a visual buffer from headlights and what have you. So we'd want something there. And when we did a survey, folks really did like the fence, but it just makes sense, phasing wise, to give it a go with trying to prune back those cedars. Finally, we looked at a radius at Pleasant, the southeast corner of Pleasant and Munsell. And above here is the existing condition. And you can imagine if you were to put a buffered sidewalk here along coming up on north on Munsell Avenue, you'd have to go into a crosswalk to then pick up the one on Pleasant. And that's not ideal from any number of standpoints, someone pushing a stroller or, safety. And so what we show here is actually the same as the other three radii of that intersection. It's this southeast one that has a much wider curve. We talked about this, for a while, thank you, at an earlier select board meeting. And so we're putting this in there. And this is also where synergy from that stormwater management project at this intersection might be super useful, because you'd have the opportunity to really think about this radius as it relates to stormwater management and a sidewalk at the same time. Finally, a scoping study talks about where you can get grant money or resources. I defer to you and your town administrator as to how you might prioritize a project like this in terms of budgeting and funding. But we do offer in this document some opportunities for partnerships moving forward. And these are all live links, by the way. And so if you have this as a PDF, you can just click on these and it goes to the page of the agency, or in the case of the AARP, their website, where they have grant information. And I think this top one, the CDBG, I'm sure you're aware, I think they have an opportunity coming up in the next few weeks for a grant application. And we look at permits. Like I said, there are a couple because it intersects with West Street, which is a state highway that might require additional paperwork. But in this case, the National Environmental Policy Act, this CADEX letter, is just a couple of pages basically saying we think it qualifies because of all these very good reasons that are set forth in the regs. And because it might intersect with West, yes, what's called a State Highway Access 1111 permit. And this was the final, I don't know if you can read that on your screen. This is the east side buffered estimate taken into account current ramp-ups in costs, and we get a planning level cost estimate of about $350,000 for an east side buffered sidewalk, including planting, including flaggers, including the sort of stump removal if necessary, including the sort of things like mobilization and silt fencing, what have you, would be with any project. And so, that's certainly worth thinking about and putting it in the hopper for all your budgetary priorities, because that's not nothing, but you weigh that against the potential benefits to the community long-term. And that's how we talk things through and make decisions. So are there any questions about that?
No, that was terrific, Dan. Thank you.
Sure.
Dan,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have one, Dan. Can you go to that slide that you showed the fence in the new by Bristol Works?
The hedges.
Oh, yeah,
The
sure. Yeah,
and you said about, that's what when you're trimming those up, will that allow more light from the parking lot to the neighbors across the road? Or would you better off to trim them up and then put also a fence? Keep them high like the top picture is for the gentleman on the phone, but then a fence behind it so the lights don't shine across the road into the residents' houses.
You'd only be trimming the roadside.
You're right, it'd only be one side. The other side would still be full. But
the other side would still be full, but you would lose some of, almost half or a third to a half of what it's giving you now. So even depending on how much, if I'm getting your question correctly, between the trunk of these trees and the sidewalk, is there space to put also a fence? Or I guess potentially on the backside, but if you're trimming up this roadside, maybe you could put in a 3-foot fence. Something that looks nice that picks up the majority of headlights as high as a pickup truck or what have you, that might be parking there. And that could be attractive. And it wouldn't stop you from then doing something else in the future, I wouldn't think. But maybe that future thing then becomes, if the cedars do decline, planting. And so you kind of invert it a little bit in terms of your sequencing, in terms of planting, fencing. There are a few solutions you could do. It seemed like the lowest cost, what if, was to see, start with pruning. And then something like headlight glare or other lights from buildings through those trees could be evaluated pretty quickly even. You could even do it one day and then look at it at night for the next day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dan? No?
Thanks.
thank you,
Yeah,
Dan.
and
Thanks,
packaged
Dan.
with this, and I will get you the typo-free version, at least the typo I noticed. 3 appendices, a full documentation. This company Hartkin that we work with went house by house on all of Munsell, describing its age, its character, if it had historic nature to it, potential integrity, things like that. It's a really fascinating read. Archaeological resource assessment, as you can imagine, there's less of that from a really old stuff standpoint, but the Bristol Works property itself is fascinating. And then we sent along all the open-ended, there's several dozen survey comments that came through. And I think this is really cool. This is Munsell Avenue right here. And if anyone can let me know what these big boxes are at Bristol Works.
Probably Drake Smith when all the lumber was stacked there.
That was lumber.
Yeah.
Dan, was that estimate you gave of 300 some odd thousand, was that if they had to Green Mountain Power have to move power poles or no? Was that figured in there?
Yeah, I think
That
it does.
was.
I think there are 6, let's see, a little retaining wall at the top end, straw wall, pruning seniors, remove and reset utility poles, 6 of them at $5,000 each. Yep, so that's 30,000 to that.
Okay.
One of the thoughts was, you know, why the select board also picked the buffered is consistency, but it's interesting when we're thinking about a curved sidewalk, either way a sidewalk, you'd be moving utility poles, but the curved version, you might be moving it closer to the houses, which is interesting. When you put in that 3 or 4 foot wide strip, you're sometimes moving those poles closer to the road. And so there's a trade-off between having a sidewalk in your front yard and potentially having utility poles a little further away. But that was an interesting advantage of the buffered sidewalk with a grass strip.
Thank you, Dan, very much for all of that work. I learned today from VTrans that there is a certificate that we need to provide that indicates that the select board either approved or did not approve or accept, rather the terminology is accept, this final scoping report. So I think they are looking for some sort of motion of acceptance.
I make a motion that we accept this scoping study from Du Bois and King for Munsell Avenue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion, sorry. Peeker's putting me through my paces, so discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank
Dan.
you all. It's
Thank you,
been a
Dan, for all
pleasure
your work.
working with the town. Yeah, truly. Thank you all very, very much. Have
It's been
great
a
night.
pleasure, Dan.
Thanks, Valerie. So long.
All right, next up, Bristol Police Station Building Concept Site Plan Alternatives Review, Cushman Design.
Can we
Yeah,
bump up
I'm Mike
Dan
Paul.
from the
I'm
screen,
with
please?
Cushman Design for, I can describe some site plan options that we've developed.
Thank you.
Should I share?
Now you can.
Sure. All right. Okay. So yeah, the feasibility study looks at placing a police department building on the same property as the fire department to the south side. So it'd be behind, essentially behind the behind the fire department building. I think some reasoning for the request was the town owns the property, so it'd be cost savings to use that property, and also to potentially treat the new police station as an addition to the fire department, using it has an elevator and a south entry that are positioned pretty well to accept and use an addition to not need a new elevator and a potentially two-story police department. So we looked at a couple building options. This option here shows a one-story police department. The other option I'm going to shows a two-story police department. The reason I wanted to start with the one-story department, one-story building as a standalone project was, I think, just pure economics. It would be a cost savings to not really touch or engage in construction the existing firehouse, but to just place the new building right next to it. So that's what this shows. The existing police department, it's about 2,500 square feet of space. So this rectangle here, the proposed new building is about 4,000 square feet. The existing police department has 4 full-time employees, and we looked at the potential expansion to 6 employees, but also a youth officer and a detective position. So the new story, the new building, this smaller version shows spaces for about 9 people in it. So I'm going to switch to the next option, which would be a 2-story building with a smaller footprint. So we would get about 3,000 square feet for 2 on each level. Our proposal here, we would connect to the fire department so that we could use the elevator that's on the south entry. So there would be a 2nd-story kind of hallway connector, but we're still proposing to leave the ground level open. Part of this current site use is the firefighters come in and they park along the west side, and they go in this door just past the generator. So we don't want to disrupt that site flow for normal fire department use. So we think leaving the ground level open, but having a 2nd-story connector would allow for a couple of entrances to be placed near each other, but still maintain that site use. One of the considerations of the 2-story police department would be which police functions are appropriate to not be on the ground floor. So maybe some admin uses, but a lot of it seems appropriate to be on the ground level. So that would be a consideration once we get further into the building design, or somebody gets into the building design. But I'm going to switch to the actual floor plan of the buildings. This is the 1-story option, and the goal with this floor plan, it's really not to start to design the building, but it's really just to define the footprint that's appropriate for what the fire department needs for space use. So again, this is the 4,000 square feet option. We have a chief, we have an admin position, could be the youth officer as well, a detective office, and then we have desks for about 6 patrol people. So it's a slight enlargement over the current police department. We have a 2-car Sally port, so a garage space that could be driven into for two vehicles, and that could exit into the fire department parking area. And again, we're not connecting to the fire department except for a possible roof, which is optional. It seems kind of appropriate to have a covered space for travel back and forth between the 2 buildings. I'll switch to the 2-story version, building floor plan. So it's a slightly smaller floor plan, about 3,000 square feet at the ground level. We still have the Sally port. It's a little closer, leaves a little bit more space on the site for other uses. We have to use the stair to get up, but our 2nd stair, we're going to utilize the fire department stair, and we're going to utilize the elevator for handicap access to the 2nd floor. So we'd go up here and we would cross over a corridor bridge. We have a lot of the same uses from the 1-story option, but we moved a lot of the offices and admin to the upstairs. This is the second story of the 2-story option. We have the chief, a potential captain, youth officer, detective. We have 6 more patrols. We left 2 offices downstairs because it seems appropriate at the main entrance to the building to have an admin or a dispatch person. And then 1 patrol officer potentially in that same part of the building. And then upstairs would be the balance of the fire department's, police department staff, sorry. So this building option shows desk and office space for 12 people, which is a pretty big increase over current use. So that's, I guess, I don't know what the town plan is, but for growth or police department growth, it's a pretty big increase with this version over the previous version, which had desk space for 9 people. So I guess that's a summary of the 2 site plan options and the reasoning behind that, kind of supported by the building plan options. So, any questions?
So this might be a question for Peter, the parking area. I mean, how close is that to the pond? I mean,
Well, he's got the pond drum there.
right, so that's not gonna interfere with because we've moved it back. We obviously moved it and put parking back there farther from the thing. It always looks a lot closer to me when I'm there in person, so.
Well, there's quite a bit of space if you take that. I think probably judging from where the other parking lot is, that's just beyond where the gas tank would be now.
Okay. Mike, are they gonna, on the west side where the firefighters park, are they gonna lose those 4 spaces where you have that line?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Right here?
Yeah.
Additional spaces.
Those are actually 4 additional spaces.
Additional spaces, okay.
So yeah, currently that would be added to that parking arrangement.
And if it's the 2-story one, how many are you adding?
We have space for 2.
Okay.
I mean, these 2.
Yeah, but then you have the other spaces on the other side.
Correct, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a trade-off.
Which are presently there now.
Right, but in that one, you lose some of
Right.
them, so.
Right, you have a whole string along that south side there.
Right, but if you got the single story, you lose through them, but gain more on the other side.
True.
Yeah.
So does the larger floor plan, what does that mean for, I guess we're tying into septic and water and all that already, that's already existing, correct? So that's not an issue with a larger space, right?
So I spoke with we have a civil design consultant who was involved with the firehouse septic design. And the site planning that they did at that time was to provide 150% capacity for the firehouse. And that relieved them of the requirement to site a replacement field on the site. So there's extra capacity in the current system. But if the allocation of the new area, it's going to take up some of that. So they might have to designate additional site area for partial or potential replacement of that original system for the firehouse. So it was designed with extra capacity, but if we start to utilize that, I think there's additional site areas that just need to be designated for future replacement zones.
Handicap parking is.
So there's a
question in the chat about the location of accessible parking spaces.
So on this site plan, a walkway connecting the 2, and then a sidewalk here. So I think either of these spaces or even all 4 of these could be accessible parking. So we would designate this as as the public parking area with everything else really reserved for fire and police department staff. So if you're coming as part of the public, it would be right along here, and you would travel north on the sidewalk to the 2 building entrances.
Got it.
And that's the same on both site plans.
And where are they now, Joel? Where did you say they are?
If he goes back to the single story,
Mhm.
or the two, they're, well, hard to tell. They're right where that sidewalk is coming into the,
Gotcha, okay.
they're right. Mike, that parking lot looks like it's driven in from the west, and the back parking lot, the rear parking lot. You come in and park there. Should those parking spots be diagonal, kind of like the ones on the west side for the firefighters, just for easy access to get out of them and go out onto Firehouse Drive?
I didn't envision the public using the west driveway. I don't know if there's actual signage that restricts just firehouse staff there, but I still assume the main vehicle entrance for the public would be off
Okay.
Firehouse
I
Drive.
think that's correct.
But there is room to diagonal them if that, if that methodology changes, that there would be room for that.
I don't see a need for diagonal because it's a traditional parking lot. The spaces that you have there now those are far more spaces than what are currently there, which is great.
Yeah.
The way it's drawn, your statement is correct, Brett.
They'll come in from the Firehouse Drive and park in the big parking lot.
Yeah.
Because everybody has to go out that way now. They can't go back out to West Street on the west side parking there for the firefighters. We don't go out that way.
Right, but that would be
Right.
firefighter
Only.
only.
Right.
Is there parking on the street? I can't remember. Did we remove it or did we add parking on the
No,
street?
there's parking on Firehouse.
Firehouse Drive.
Actually, you'd probably lose a couple spaces there as well.
Mhm.
But the zoning gave it two.
Yeah.
But look all that you gain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So you haven't done anything for the inside of the building yet. You're just conceptual for the outside and what it would house for personnel.
Correct. Yeah, we have we know that the current spaces are, so we increase those by a certain percentage for our planning purposes. We had a meeting with Bruce back in the late fall, and so we kind of went through an existing status report. What he envisioned as reasonable growth would be 2 more positions, and then just other positions that were probably unlikely, but we've seen other departments have, like captains and other just additional personnel.
And see any holding cell?
Yeah, I think it's gonna have.
Yeah.
There is, I
Yeah,
didn't.
there were 2 or
There are
3.
2 of them. Yes.
Yeah, right
Bruce,
there.
what's your take on 2 floors? Do you have a preference at this point?
The 2 floors, I think, would probably work better, because what I didn't mention before, and I forgot, because we use the DPW for some of our bikes that we store. There's a trailer there, so we should have something near the police department, some exterior storage and if we went with the 2-story concept, we could do something right there.
Well, my question for you versus the conference rooms, training room, I don't remember what they are, but if we're attached to the firehouse, would you be able to use theirs, or is it
Yes,
just
for
gonna
some
be
of
too
it.
much?
No,
Yeah.
some of it,
You're
there are some, like, some agencies do interviews at our station. They use our station for that. Right now, it's shared space. I mean, we just get out of the office and let them take over. So we would have some area where they could actually come in, and some of it, if it deals, especially if it deals with a juvenile, you usually have 2 or 3 people. So that would be the purpose for a room like that. Or if a family came in to discuss a case, we would want to do that on the police department side, not fire department side.
Okay.
So you've seen kind of the floor plans and
Yeah.
they have everything
I
that you
think,
need?
it's got everything that we would think we would need in the future.
Mhm.
Just to, maybe adjust where they have it on there, move things around a little bit.
Mhm.
We have 2,500 square feet right now, but a lot of the space is dual space, or we have a small interview room that if we want to use it, I have to take all the extra uniforms out of there and move things around. So, and there's stuff that's piled in the garage that should actually be in the storage area.
Like, what'd you say the square footage for this, the one floor was?
The one floor option's the 4,000 square feet.
And the two floor is 6?
It's, this ground floor is 3,000 square feet. If we go to the second story, we may, if we may not need the second story above the sally port, so you could get another 3,000 square feet or slightly less if you just you let that be a double height space. So
yeah,
it's a little bit of plus or minus on that.
So here's a question for you that you'll love. What about dogs? You end up with dogs in your space. Is there
they
a
get to
dog?
go in the holding cell.
They get to go in the holding
Right now, that's where they go, is the
Yeah,
holding cell.
okay.
But by the time if we go with this, by the time we get this, I would hope we'd figure out something else for the animals.
I thought that might be your answer.
If not, the holding cell is the temporary place that we put the dogs.
Okay. Any other questions?
One question I have is what do we envision as potential next steps?
Good question.
Do we need any other design information, or is going forward more of a select board conversation about timing, sequencing of things? We're talking about potential townwide, expansion. So I'm interested to know what people's thoughts are.
I would say we need to have a detailed discussion before we would decide on any sort of building. If we're looking at 4,000 square feet or 6,000 square feet of building, there's a significant price tag attached to that. We know that the current district is strained in terms of the budget already. So I have concerns about then taking on a bond of this nature for a building of this size. So I think we need to have a discussion about where we see this going in terms of opening it up townwide, what that might look like, what that might entail, and what if that's what we're going to present, what a police department, a townwide police department would look like.
I think I agree that we need to delve a lot further into it, but as far as the bond for the payment of the building, I think the thought was that it would fit within what we're paying for rent now. So the burden on the district shouldn't change from what it is. But you're right.
We don't.
We don't have a concrete number, but I think we have to decide, with Bruce and ourselves, what we think we really need and what direction we want to head.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope that it is a fairly decent crossover in terms of our rent payment versus what a bond payment might be, but we don't know that yet. It could be double. It could be, close to that. It could be double. It could be more than double. And obviously, I think you would have some upset people in the police district having to bear that burden. But yeah, I think you're right, Peter. I think we need that more detailed discussion to see what we need and see what the potential is for going townwide, and again, what that might look like.
And I think it probably can give us some rough square footage numbers so that we, for single and double story, so that we can at least educate ourselves as to what direction we want to head.
I had an interesting, resident of the town of Bristol asked me this weekend a question that I go, it's good, he had a good question is, do we need the authority of the town of Bristol to put a district building on a town property first? That's owned by the town of Bristol, residents of the town of Bristol, that land and fire station. And we're asking them to put a district building on it. Do we need permission first?
The town would still own the building and it wouldn't be, I guess the town could build the building and then lease it to the fire department, or to the police department.
Police district.
Because it's gonna be, any way you slice it, it's gonna be a town building.
Right. Town bond vote. Yeah.
Right. But it is a, Joel, it is a confusing thing. And so maybe more reason to explore the townwide and the potential for that, given the complexities of doing something like this in terms of building new infrastructure for a district only.
Yeah.
And the purpose of these drawings was to see if it was even possible to do on that already owned property.
Right. Right. Because we knew we owned that property. We knew that since the fire station had been conceived of, there was potential to add an additional building behind it for the police department. And so this sort of continues those discussions. It looks good. Thank you very much, Michael, for presenting that. You don't happen to have a rough dollar figures attached to something like that, would you?
I don't have those for tonight, but I could get into that or maybe for the next meeting.
Yeah.
So that begs the question too, is there any other information that the select board would need or want from the design team to help those ongoing conversations?
I think a dollar amount, a rough dollar amount.
A rough dollar amount, and then we need to have a discussion amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
So that we know what we're comfortable presenting.
And versus what we're paying and what's that gonna do to the tax rate of the district? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Yeah, given, I mean, I know materials are getting a little bit cheaper and supply is getting better, but construction costs themselves still seem to be at the same level. Obviously, we have apartments and housing going up right there. We're going to have a large, another building going up right there too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what a rough figure might be for those two versions that you presented, the 4,000 square feet and the 6,000 square feet, just to give us an idea, and that gives us some numbers to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to look into those. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
Welcome. Thank you.
Great. All right, now I'm assuming this is why everybody's here. Our next item, the ARPA Funding Advisory Committee recommendations for use of ARPA funds.
Hello.
Hello, Porter.
Hello, Porter. Thank you. Thank you for all your work on this.
It has been a really, really terrific committee. And I just can't say enough how every single member of the committee was active and engaged and energetic and participatory. It was a really super group.
Great.
Do you want me to?
Yes, do you want to walk us through your recommendations?
Okay, great. So you have our recommendation in front of you, and what we're recommending are 20 items that are distilled from about 500 that we got from our extensive outreach to the community. So as you saw, we did a series of focus groups. You may recall last summer, so we reached out to groups that had businesses in town, people who worked with youth and children, people who worked with nonprofits that provide services, and also the town employees. And then we followed up the focus groups
Porter,
with.
could you hold up for a second?
Yeah.
Is there any way we can get those on the screen, because we
don't have the list
them in front of us?
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, I mean, I can share the report, or do you want to put the report up? Is that what you want to see, is the report?
Ian's gonna put the list up.
I was gonna say, I have it here
Okay.
too, if you peek up my computer.
Sorry to interrupt, but.
No, that's fine. So yeah, with that up, I'm sure everybody's eyes will just go immediately to the list. So, but essentially we did a lot of background research. We stood at the dump, we stood at the grocery store, we handed out postcards, there was a link to the website, and all told, we got about 500 ideas. And then we worked in a number of ways to distill that down to a smaller list. With some terrific help from Jessica Tietz's class at Middlebury College. She had a methodology class that helped us out with that. So we were able to take that big list of 500 and look at it in different ways with different lenses. And these 20 items are what sifted to the top, and they're shown to you in an orders, which is ranked by the community. So we went back out to the community with these 20 items and said, tell us your preferred order. So it is our hope that you will be able to start at the top and fund as many of them as you can, seeking additional money to leverage with the ARPA funds. So if there's grants available or other sources of money to help the ARPA money go farther, that would be great. So that is the primary aspect of our proposal. And then the report goes on to say a couple of additional things. There were a number of other good ideas, which we call tier 2. And our hope is that you guys will take that into consideration and have that be sort of a wish list of sorts. We are also, as a committee, meeting one more time to look at those tier 2 items and to think about what other groups or organizations within the community might have a vested interest, and to share the ideas with them so they can also have a wish list. So maybe there'll be other groups or agencies or organizations working to get those additional things funded as well. I want to stop there and see if some of the other members of the committee, because we have at least, I think, 3 or 4 people still on the call. There was another earlier. Is there anything else you guys want to weigh in on? And then I'll take questions from the group and a couple other comments. I know Diane, Betsy, and Allison are on the call. You guys want to say anything?
I'm hanging out here in the background, not much other than this is Chris. I'm hanging out in the back.
Oh, hi, Chris.
So all the committees I've sat on over the years, this is probably the most functional committee I've ever sat on. We came together, very diverse group, and came up with a pretty unanimous concept and list of ideas. So it was very rewarding, and like I said, very positive to come out of the committee feeling this good.
Well, I want to acknowledge that Chris had a pretty good hand in helping things run the way they did. He contributed quite a lot to the public outreach and all that came after.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Do you guys have questions?
I want to say thank you, because there's no way this board could have done all this work.
Exactly.
And come up with
Thank
this
you,
list.
thank you.
My only question, Porter, is like, I'm looking at the electric charging stations. Now, on the news tonight, they were talking about trying to push that to get more of them around the state. So my guess is there's going to be some more grant options for that. So if that's the case, then, the committee's choice would be for us to try and get grants for what we can, and then that would up the space for other things down on the list.
Yeah, Michelle, definitely. And Valerie and Ian have both been involved throughout our whole process. And there have been places where they've said, we think we can see funding coming down the pike for that. We think there's opportunities for that. So they're already have been paying attention to that as we go along. And, and so, yeah, definitely where there's other monies, use that first, or use this to help leverage to bring that to town.
Okay. And
So
don't we
that-
already have bike racks on the,
We
well, at
have,
least during the
we have a
summertime?
few, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Michelle, too, is that, some of these items are pretty low hanging fruit. They're not super expensive and they're easy to do. And remembering that the ARPA money has some restrictions in terms of spending. So it's like you need to commit the money by December of 2024. So we wanted to get these ideas to you sooner rather than later. So if there's some things that you need to go out to bid for or that are a little more complicated to develop, you have time, but some of them you could just go ahead and do. So the money needs to be committed by December 2024 and spent by December 2026. So having these in front of you now gives you time to do that, but you want to keep that timetable in mind. And I know, again, Valerie's right on top of that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I like the idea that the grant writer's close to the top, because that's one I think we should do sooner rather than
Right.
later to start, and then
Fill out the other 19.
see what's available for everything else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
and I'll point out that one of the things that as a committee that we were reluctant to do was to create a, to put something on the recommendation list that would be an expense to the town. But this one kept percolating to the top because of exactly what you said there, Peter, is that, if we can get some support within the town office to help do additional grant writing and bring more money to town, then that's going to be all to the better. And we were pleased then to see that the community ranked that really, really high as well. You'll notice
Bob?
too, and I see Bob has his hand up. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Bob Donis. I'm a member of the board of the Turning Point Center of Addison County, and I want to first of all, I want to thank Porter and the committee for doing a wonderful job outreaching to all the community in Bristol and coming up with these options for this ARPA money. And I want to let you know that the Turning Point Center, we have hopes that we move into a new space, but that needs work to be done on it to upgrade the heating system before we can do that. And we do have one grant that'll help us with that, but it's not nearly enough. So this would be outstanding to provide us with, I think it's the 55 that we were asking for from the ARPA funding. So again, thank you. Thank you very much, Porter and the whole committee. Appreciate it very much. So are there any questions about this process or the Turning Point Center?
Bob, did you say that the Turning Point is asking for $55,000?
Yes.
I didn't think that was what we got initially, but.
Yeah.
Porter I won't pick on him, but I mentioned the first one, Bristol Family Center, for a new sprinkler to provide more childcare. Was there a cost estimate of, I mean, if you put a new sprinkler system and it costs so much, but it only gets you 5 more spots or 10 more spots or 3 more spots, was it cost effective to do that versus walking away from that building and get a bigger building with sprinklers that could cover that?
So we didn't split hairs quite that finely, and you'll notice that our recommendations don't come with dollar figures attached. Some of these 20 items have a fully fledged proposals, which have been submitted to the town. Some of them are just ideas that would require some work, some legwork on the part of town staff to develop into a proposal that you could move ahead with. So they come to you in all different levels. Like Turning Point has a specific number that they have in mind. You could do that, do more, do less, and they'll still keep moving, and it will bring greater availability of those important services to our community. Something like the sprinkler system will have a more specific dollar figure attached. They may or may not have yet found additional funding, and if we have a support person in town who can help them get funding, that might happen. But we felt like we wanted to get the ideas to you in a timely manner, and that's why we say, like, start at the top if you can, and work as far as you're able to. And if there's one that's easier and you need to jump around, you'll do what you need to do. But we didn't feel like we had the capacity as individuals
to do that type of analysis. I will say though, and I see Allison has her hand up, so I want to hear from her too. But childcare and housing were the top two issues that came up again and again and again. Every single group, every single scenario where we were talking to people, childcare and housing. And so we wanted to make sure that we did whatever we could, and the Bristol Family Center and the Wren's Nest proposals addressed those. And, you know, they absolutely deserve to be on the list. And, you know, so it was like 5 slots doesn't sound like a lot, but that proportionally makes a difference in Bristol. So that's where we ended up. Allison, did you have more to add there?
I just wanted to say I was at the Bristol Family Center, and their rationale is if they put the sprinkler system up and then have an emergency exit, they would be able to move a considerable amount of the preschoolers to the upstairs, where it would open up infant and toddler, which is a huge need for Bristol and outlying areas. And I think if I remember correctly, Amy said something around 90 to 100,000 for that to happen. So depending, you know, on the space and everything, it looks like it could possibly be 10 to 20 spaces available. Thanks.
And again, this might be a scenario where if the town said we could use ARPA money, that would help them leverage additional funds.
Porter, will we have the supporting document, like if Bristol Family Center submitted a specific plan or request, will that be, we have access to that so that we can kind of look at that stuff?
Yeah, anyone who submitted an explicit request, Valerie had originally.
Okay.
So that's part of, we call it Valerie's Matrix, and it's available.
Okay, great.
I don't believe we received anything specific from the Family Center yet. It was always pending.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just asking the documentation.
I'm sure Amy would come and speak to us. If
Yes.
we
Oh,
needed
sure.
her.
Of course.
Yeah. Bob, is your hand up a second time?
Yes, I just wanted to mention also that there's so many people that we're seeing now that we've for people suffering from addictions that are in need of help and support, and supporting them to stay in recovery. And that's what the Turning Point Center is all about. And that's why we're saying that we need additional space and to help folks and help them with the services they need. So I just want to make that clear.
Great.
Thank you.
Somebody else had their hand
Thanks,
up.
Bob.
I don't know who it was.
Yeah. Did someone else have their hand up before?
Can you click on the chat? I don't know if I can.
So I have a few recommendations on this. Obviously, I followed the process along as this has happened over the last year. You know, looking at this list, I think it's excellent. And I think there are some, as Porter said, some low-hanging fruit that we can immediately take care of, given a low dollar amount and the simplicity of them. There are some ways that we could divide this up. We can divide it by organizations, and we can divide it out by what the town itself might do. I think perhaps reaching out to the organizations that are on this list and asking for as detailed a proposal as possible. We vet that proposal and then begin the process of assigning the money. We do need to figure out internally how we're going to handle that, because this does need quite a lot of not auditing, but manageability for the funds, and making sure that the funds are spent in the way they're supposed to be spent. And so we can do that as this is going on, as we're accepting proposals from organizations. And obviously some have detailed proposals, others might need to get proposals to us so that we can vet. There's also, as Peter said, and I've spoken about this before, the grant writing position is very high on that list. And I think that's probably the first thing that we should look at. I know that Val has a couple of ideas about that, and we'll begin to be writing a job proposal for that position. That one should be, I think, our first one that we tackle, because it could benefit every other number on that list.
Right.
And I think it's also something that we can immediately do that position and have hopefully someone come in and at the same time be working with organizations who have proposals and be able to make those happen as well.
I would say in addition to a grant writer, maybe that position could also include a grant manager, because this is going to be a cumbersome, lengthy process. But I don't think anyone here at this table or Valerie have capacity to handle. So I would suggest making that, I would suggest making that a grant manager as well.
Yeah, well, the idea is that this is gonna be ongoing, it's not gonna be just for this money.
Right.
And, you know, just looking at all the grants we apply for, they're usually somewhere between 20 and 50% match, so, you know, getting that up and running, this money could go twice as far.
Right.
I want to
would say-
caution that it's going to take some time to finalize the job description, to advertise it, to find somebody that fits this very, very, very narrow skill set, and then get them started. So I would not want to delay making the low-hanging fruit decisions that can be made going forward.
Yeah, I think a combination approach would be wise.
Yeah, because I don't think none of these are really an immediate thing. It's not like we're going to be cutting a check next week. Each one of these we have to figure out how we're going to deliver that, how we're going to manage that. But I do think we can spend some time before the next meeting. I think all select board members should sort of look through this list, look through the whole report, because it's an excellent read, and sort of be thinking about this. And I think what we can bring to our next meeting about this is sort of a divided up list into different chunks and sections, how we might want to tackle this. I think that would be a useful thing. And we can also, in the time before the next meeting, we can ask the organizations that have been listed here to provide a quote for what they want and a detailed proposal to us, or as detailed as they can do. So we can vet that and look at that. And so those are the things that we can be doing at the same time as having that position be posted and being put out there. And I will say, with regard to some of them, so you mentioned electric charging stations. There is new grant coming from the ACCD. I'm working on that with Green Mountain Power on behalf of the town. I'm also working on, so that's number 10. I'm also working on number 9. Just by chance, we were contacted by TVT with regard to a bus shelter program that they are working on with AARP and the Yestamara Design Build School. And so there actually are 3 bus shelters that are fully built. I went and saw them today with Val over in Waitsfield, and I've been working with property owners to place them at key locations in town. So 9 and 10, especially 9, can almost be crossed off the list, which is an awfully good start, I think.
Although we will probably want to tap into some of the ARPA funding to actually install the bus shelters, because they're going to require some site preparation and some other tweaks to make them fit.
Yeah, we haven't put them in yet.
Right.
And the rescue squad's request, some of that I believe is radio equipment, and there's $20 million tied up in the legislature right now that's gonna be let out for communications.
For grants.
Yeah.
Emergency services.
And those bus shelters, I mean, we had a discussion, and we weren't really in favor of those designs, so, I mean,
I wouldn't spend a lot of time.
yeah, I would just be careful if we're.
I mean,
That's not what I recall being said at the meeting. You told me to look at other options, but you were just concerned about how much shelter they offered. We looked at them today, and I thought they were all offered at plenty for what it was. And the property owners seem to be excited about having them too. So,
I mean, I'll take number 8 for instance. That's pretty broad right there. Redesign of Pine Street. That could be a stripe down the side of the line for walking and narrowing the street up. When we've had quotes of that for painting the lines to redesign for pedestrian safety, could be sidewalk for the whole length of it. Could be 600,000. So that,
right.
We have to flush out.
There's
and that's something
for sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's something where we.
The logic behind that was we're tearing up Pine Street. to the water project. And while we're doing it, the concept was look at widening Pine Street. Instead of trying to add a sidewalk, add a couple 3 feet to it, and then adding a pedestrian walkway. So it's again, trying to leverage dollars while you have it all torn up and you're repaving. Now would be the time to do such a project. So that was the idea behind that particular item.
Well, a little caveat to there, from Maple Street to the town garage, it's only a 2-yard road, 2 rod, not a 3 rod. It narrows up from Maple to the town garage. The street's not 2 rod. It's only 2 rod, not 3 rod.
Yeah, I was gonna say, then it's a matter of getting property from property owner.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
But, yeah,
Right,
I get
this-
your point, so it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that particular one obviously is in the wheelhouse of the town. So I think that's why splitting these up into organizations as well as what the town is going to be looking at. And then we start to dive down and dig deeper into those individual ones. I mean, even something like number 4, heat pumps, air conditioning for Holly Hall, that's a huge project to renovate and to install equipment like that in this building or in that building, in the building you're in. So, you know, I think dividing it up that's our first point.
Okay. Any other?
So I think to round this out, we will be resuming conversations about this list in future meetings. And in the TA report, I reference a resolution that is recommended that we use for whatever decisions we make, just to kind of keep track and make it official, so that we can keep track of the decisions as we make them.
Great. Diane?
You're muted, Diane.
You're muted.
You're muted, Diane.
Hit your space bar.
Or tap it on your phone, unmute.
Nope, no.
Here. There, see if that pops up.
Still muted.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, I just would like to say that I appreciate that the select board gave some thought to what would the town like to do with this money, because as you read the papers over the past year, you see that other towns, some towns did nothing with the money except put it in the general fund and spend it. But Bristol said, well, let's see what the town would like. And so that's why they said, let's do this committee. And people were very appreciative as I talked to them. They said, wow, you know, this is what I would like, and I'm happy that they want to hear. So I appreciate that our select board did that.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
I think that we all really felt that way, and that's why there were 3 suggestions that we made in the report in addition to the actual recommendations. One I've already shared with you, which is that we hope that you'll look at tier 2 as a wish list and keep that in mind as you move forward, that these are great ideas from the community that would be great to, you know, put forward. The other is that we noticed that a lot of people were saying that we needed services that we actually have. So what we were observing was that there was a shortage of awareness of some of the things, like when is the food shelf available and who is that for and how can I access that if I don't want to wait until, you know, the last, you know, Friday of the month or whatever. So if that's something that could be taken on either from a town role, or maybe that's part of the grant writer's role, or some type of amplification or better communication and dispersal of explaining what services already exist and how people can access them. And then the third thing was, to Diane's point, that the community really appreciated this effort of outreach, and it yielded some really, really interesting conversations. And so we're recommending that the select board intentionally undertake a similar type of community engagement at intervals, maybe at least, you know, in another 10 years, maybe sooner if it was warranted. But because, like you said, Michelle, it's not something that you guys could do as a select board. It's just, you know, you already are doing everything you're doing, but to convene a committee at some interval tasked specifically with this outreach, education, and listening exercise to bring ideas to the board, I think really enhances Bristol as a listening community where our leaders want to know.
Thank you. I think that's important, and I appreciate that input.
Thank you, committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Wouldn't it be great if we had this kind of money to give away all the time?
Yeah.
Good. Valerie, do you feel like you have the information you need to, did we answer your questions about how to move
Yes,
forward?
yes. And we'll have this back on the agenda before too long.
Perfect.
And Val, I'm happy to work with you as I have done for the last year on this and helping move this forward.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Porter.
So this is where we move that other item, correct?
No,
5A.
5A.
5A, okay.
Yes, we're at 5 now.
Never mind. Moving on.
Does 5A come before or after 5?
Ah,
Well,
good
that's,
point.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
because
wait, we're on
Joel did
we're on
say
4.
after.
Did he say after?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't get to 5A unless you do 5.
We haven't done 4 yet, though.
We haven't done
Oh.
4 yet, so.
Did I skip one?
Sure.
Right.
In the interest of time, she skipped.
Did I skip one? I apologize.
Make a motion to adjourn. No,
Steve Palmer will be upset if you skipped him.
I don't blame him.
What did I skip? Oh, the proposal. Oh, here we go. Yes. Sorry about that. I'm zipping right along in my computer here. So item number 4, consider proposal to apply for DWSRF Step 2 design funds for a phased approach to the 1905 water line replacement, starting with the western side of the village. Steve Palmer, what's all those letters mean? Oh, you're muted, Steve. Steve, you're muted.
Let me try to unmute. There we go.
There you go.
Is that any better?
Yes.
I know, it depends on what you got to say.
That's better. Everybody doing well?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Valerie, can I have the screen?
you do have it. You're a co-host.
Beautiful. Okay. I just have to figure out now, what do I need to do? Go to share screen? Share screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Make sure you have it open.
Yep. Can you guys see your screen sharing?
We see your directory.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Let's do this.
There you go.
Better?
Yep.
Mhm.
Now,
Lots of pictures.
I just need to move this down here where I can kind of see what I'm doing. Slideshow,
Details.
minor. Okay. As everybody realizes, we met a month ago and discussed the water line situation. As everybody realizes, it's getting worse. I mean, it's, we're approaching 125 years old. So I think we had a pretty good discussion the last time. The select board sent us back to the drawing board, had some good questions for us. Just to recap, I think the 1905 water line is failing. Jill indicated the leakage rates are continuing to increase, which is exactly what the preliminary engineering report indicated would probably happen. The current pace of replacement will take 70+ years to complete. There was a general consensus among the select board members, at least this is my interpretation of what came out of there, so please correct me if I'm wrong, that a more aggressive replacement plan is needed. I mean, 70 years, obviously the lines aren't going to last that long. They're already breaking down. So a plan was presented to break the town into separate geographic areas for replacement. There was a lot of discussion about that plan. There was a general consensus, I think, that separate alternatives analysis should be conducted for the Rockydale slopeside segments. And the select board requested that staff provide additional information on several issues as follows. I think there was some confusion at the last meeting. Jill and I had separate information or different information. I was going off the PER and Jill was going off from some information that the town had in terms of the lines that necessarily or may not need to get replaced. Okay. The second question was, and there was obviously everybody asked, could you please clarify that and make sure that the numbers are correct? The second part was the question was asked whether or not grant funding or other opportunities exist in addition to DWSRF that could help lower the final cost of locally funded portions of the project. And number 3, are there funding or technical reason that the design and the permitting of the entire water line replacement project could not be completed upfront and then the construction be phased in later in separately funded segments? Okay. So the answer to the first question is the replacement list presented in the PER accurate? Yes. We did confirm that. We spent quite a bit of time also with Alan Heisinger, speaking with him about different things that were done. So we're pretty confident that the PER numbers are correct. Number 2, are there grants or funding opportunities that exist in addition to DWSRF that could lower the final cost of the locally funded portions of the project? So Valerie and I reached out to Cindy Parks of the Water Investment Division. We were talking to her about some things with Pine Street. She had some good suggestions and input here that I think Valerie's going to follow up on, but I wanted to include, I just quoted right out of the email. Okay. She provided 3 different sites that may be of interest to the town and probably could help with some of the additional funding. Okay. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I'm pretty sure Valerie's following up on that. Okay. Number 3, are there funding or technical reasons that the design and permitting of the entire water line replacement project could not be completed up front and the construction then be phased in later as separately funded segments? So Jill reached out to Amy Galford from DWSRF. You need to understand that DWSRF, depending on the amount of money that they get from the federal government on any given year, they may or may not have funding caps on certain things. I have never, in the years that I've been doing this, heard of them not having funding caps, but it may or may not be true today. We got little old Vermont, people don't understand this, got the better part of $2 billion with a B for infrastructure. And there is so much money within this program right now that they don't have the people to deal with this. That's why there really aren't funding caps today. So here's her quote. Some IUP intended use plan years. Okay. That's basically the plan that they put together showing how they're going to spend all of the federal money for water and wastewater projects every single year. Okay. Some of the intended use plan years, there was a maximum loan value. I think that's less likely with the increased infrastructure funding. We did not have a cap on the general fund priority list loans under the current cycle. Again, I've never heard of that before. Lead and priority can differ from general. It's not really relevant to you. I can't say for sure about the cap until our IUP draft is finalized. She means this year. That hasn't been done yet. That said, you can apply for any amount in the priority list application and the amount doesn't affect your scoring. You have to cap individual loans. Your priority list application was over that. You just have to get ranked for the cap amount. The bottom part of this, I think, is what's really important. What might be more limits is the time to completion of a project will actually play out over many years. The loan should be split accordingly because the funding is tied to our annual grants from EPA that we have to close out within a few years. Off the top of my head, I want to say the project should aim for 2-year segments, but I need to check with other staff on that. There's also an issue of construction permits. Those are usually good for 2 years. So we paced out over time. So in essence, and we didn't hear anything further from Amy above and beyond this. So in essence, they're saying to you, we'd like your projects to be phased and not to go over a 2-year period. In a nutshell, okay? Jill, jump in if you think I've misspoken with any of that, please.
Nope, he's right. And I kind of asked him to take his engineering hat and put together the breakdown of the projects into what he thought were sizable enough to make it worth putting it into the application process and kind of committing to a big enough chunk to get as much grant as possible, because we know that we're at 50% right now and we don't know if that's going to go up or down, but 50% is good historically. So as we move into the next slide, you'll kind of see how he tried to do a design for 2 years worth of construction and a design for 2 years worth of construction, and then the special project so that everything could be done maybe within 7 years. Continue to take advantage of these high grant percentages, get things done before they get worse, and also pace it at a pace of the permits, and that the town and contractors in the state and engineers to do all the design and review and construction engineering, etc., can actually fit. So that's what you'll see as he keeps moving through these slides.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Jill, did I hear that you're suggesting that the design for all three segments or the two and the alternatives be done now, sooner rather than later, but that the construction itself be phased over 2 years?
So permitting is in the design and permits are only good for 2 years. So it's, what we're saying is let's get the design and permitting for the west side done in one design and then do it as 2 years of construction so that they're actually in 1 mile segments so that it's the right size to get it out to bid and have it a 2-year project for whichever contractor is the most competitive.
Right.
So it's
So Jill and I spent a lot of time talking back and forth about logistics, and I wanted to give some perspective. I think there were quite a few of you folks that were around for I think the last street project or waterline project you did was West Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that was 2,650 feet. These projects are extremely invasive, as you guys all realize, and there's some limitation on what the businesses and residents will put up with at some point. So there has to be, in my opinion, my recommendation is to you to have a measured approach to this, right? And don't bite off more than you can chew. And I think a mile a year, which is basically double what you did on West Street, is a pretty sizable goal every year. So we kind of approached it from that perspective. DWSRF is conducting, projects in individually funded phases, generally not to exceed 2 fiscal years. As we discussed, the town will likely see the most competitive pricing. This was another thing that we talked a lot about, right? There are only not even a handful of contractors in the state of Vermont that could take on this entire project as one project. And I don't think you're going to get very competitive pricing by trying to bid a ginormous project in one shot. I think you're better off taking it in manageable chunks that the mid-sized contractors, and there are 30 of them that I can think of between Chittenden and Addison County, that could do a project like this. And I think that's the way you're going to get the most competitive pricing, honestly, is put it out there as a project that they can handle. Again, these projects are extremely invasive, right? There's a limit to what people are going to put up with and deal with, and your businesses survive out of this as well. That's a big consideration here. So the segmented approach. So Jill and I decided to modify our last proposal slightly. Okay. I think what we had in the last proposal, I think this is an easier way to see it. I think what we had in the last proposal was 5 different segments, and we've condensed that into 4. And really, it's 3 because South doesn't have any 1905 water line. Okay, so we're really talking about West, East, and Rocky Hill. Let me jump to here. Okay, so here's really a summary of what we've got in terms of 1905 water line. Okay, the very top one, the blue, and I'm sorry, this is a little blurry. The blue is Pine Street, right? That's what we're undertaking this year. If you look below that, there are between West and East, there's 25 separate streets. So on any given year, what we're saying to you is we think a good way to approach this would be to do all of the design and permitting for the west side as one project. Did this as 2 years of construction, and I'm not saying tonight how we should split that up exactly, but here's the streets essentially that we would propose doing that on. Right? You've got my master. I think there's 12 in this section and 13 in this section. So each year you'd be talking about doing 5 or 6 separate streets. Okay.
Totaling how many feet a year?
Yeah.
Just under 5,000 a year.
So 2 miles a set.
That's right.
Yeah, but 1 mile.
A mile a year.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's
So
right.
Twice
a mile a year.
Twice what we've done
Right.
any other
West
time.
Street, yeah.
Right.
in a year and 4 times what you've done in any one undertaking in design and permitting.
That's right.
And, just as a slight correction to Steve, they're line segments. So some of these, there's like 3 or 4 segments on the road. So, like Pleasant Street, I think there's 4 line segments on Pleasant Street, for instance. So it might only be, 2 or 3 or 4 actual individual roads each year, but it's all the line segments along that road that are 1905.
Right. Okay. So, under this scenario, and I'm gonna pull this up in an Excel spreadsheet when we get done so you can see this a little clearer. The PDF isn't clear. I think the important thing in here is Pine Street, okay? We're undertaking that this year, obviously. Here is the west side, all right? The green is our funding initiatives, okay? That's work in terms of getting money. The blue is surveying, design, and permitting. Again, we're back into funding after the surveying, design, and permitting. And then you're into bidding and construction. And the important one, and what's really driving these schedules, is this right here. You want to bid these projects. The best time of year to bid any project in terms of construction is over the winter, right? So we're talking about end of the fourth quarter into the first quarter of the following year. All the contractors are hungry. They're trying to line up work for the following year. They want to make sure, you know, if you try to bid this in the middle of summer, everybody's already got their work lined up for the year. If they're going to do a project, they're going to put a significant premium on their bid. They're going to get that project and it's going to, you know, push the limits of what they can do. They're going to add 20 or 25% to their bid numbers. So this is the best time for us to bid these projects. And that's why you see, that's what really is driving the whole rest of the schedule. I left the Rockydale and Slopeside gray intentionally because there needs to be some sort of an alternative analysis as we talked about, right? And the goal here would be, once we start construction, to be doing construction every single construction season until we're done.
So,
okay.
Steve, so each block is a year?
That's right.
So you're looking at basically at the end of 25, start of 26 to put it out to bid, and starting in summer, fall, spring, summer and fall of 26, 27, 28, 29 of digging up the streets.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a fairly aggressive schedule. But you know, I think you guys are in a circumstance where you need to be aggressive in terms of replacing these.
Yeah.
So you're saying you wouldn't put this out to bid you'd put this out to bid in January, December 23, January 24, and then
Right.
Set for spring, summer 25.
26, because we're doing 23 is the first row.
Right.
Then 25, he's looking for
24,
funding.
he's permitting.
26, permitting
25.
or design and permitting. 25, he's looking for money. And then we're going out to start digging in April 1st. Yeah, there you go.
Better.
Is that better?
Yep. And you did section, the east side, you started in 25 looking for money and designing it in 26, while there's still some boots on the ground putting the west side in.
Right. And the goal was to have back-to-back construction, right?
Right.
We finish up the second segment of construction on the west side, and we begin the first segment following construction season on the east side.
Yeah.
Between the west and the east side is some of them longer streets are difficult, like maybe the east side's got Main Street on it. It might be difficult more to deal with that. So the difficult ones, are they in the east side or combination of both? So if you had to stretch it out into 2030 to go 5 years instead of 4 years of digging,
Right.
is that your concept or thought process?
Let me jump into something else here.
Yeah, your main commercial areas are in the east side, as if you didn't know that. If you're thinking about what's east of North Street, that's your commercial area where you've got that looped water line and those really big services. That's like Main Street. Main Street, I think, is 3 of the segments on the east side project.
Here we are.
And Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, some of that Main Street and down through there, Peter, you can chime in here anytime, it's not 1905 stuff, it's a little newer, possibly.
Which street is that?
I'm thinking Main Street. I can remember, I thought it was the 70s that they did Main Street. They did some Main Street work here, put another 12-inch main down through here, or 10-inch main. There's one on each side of Main Street, I believe. One
In here?
We have
services the
a
south
10
side,
inch and then the 8 inch service loop, and that the everything that Alan put together stated that those were 1905.
I thought they did those in the early '70s when they had the revenue sharing funds, and they put that 10 inch up through there. I can't even believe in 1905 they had 10 inch pipe,
Huh,
but maybe
well,
they did.
that'd be kind of nice to know if those aren't 1905.
So is this the questionable one here?
The both
Yeah,
of those
those
that are
two.
10 inch is what he's asking, if those are not 1905.
I mean, if those
You
were
guys-
pushed out, those two alone, and Main Street pushed out to 2030, if they're not 1905, and a little less,
We'd be about ready for repaving again then.
yeah.
Mhm. Do you guys know when Shaw's was built?
The second one or the first one where Walgreens is? That was.
I
Grand
guess
Union's first.
kind of like that development back there that's kind of on,
68?
Prince Lane. Do you guys know when that was built?
Early, mid-60s. The
Okay.
inn was gone by 64 or 5.
It wasn't, I rode bicycle through there and it wasn't there then. It was just brush.
Well, it was last week you rode a bicycle through there.
Well, I'm just trying to figure, I'm just trying to figure when I would have been, it would have been late 60s, early 70s.
Okay, then that's
that it-
definitely
that
a
it was
question.
built.
That's a question because the high school and those lines we discovered were built more at the same time as the high school as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I thought,
60,
I thought, I'm,
68.
68.
So 66.
with,
Way
with
before my time.
Joel, I think Main Street was done. But I don't know.
There's two mains running up Main Street, one for the north side and one for the south side block. And,
there's definitely a loop there. We're sure of it.
yeah. So.
Yeah, we took
I
these
guess my
from the
point was-
inventory that was done in 2017, I think.
I think my point was, some of those could be pulled, if you get that first 2 years in the west side, and you're saying, boy, we're gonna have to already look at, we're aggressive, too aggressive, can't get all this done. Those two could be pushed out to that 5th year, some of that.
But if as Peter's saying, it would be time to redo the road, it would be the time to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's the other wrinkle.
Yeah.
Right, and we didn't get to that level of detail in this analysis. We were just trying to divide it up by geographic area. And I think,
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's the next step, right? Is for us to all sit down and say, okay, which one of these streets we want to bunch together and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And you see how we have Munsell Ave? I mean, if you guys are thinking of putting a sidewalk there, we'd like to
Yeah.
be done with new water lines on that street before sidewalks go in wherever they
Yeah,
go.
and that's only a 4-inch line down from Pleasant to West.
Yeah.
Definitely needs just for more pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, pressure and it's 1905. Old.
Okay.
Okay. Does the approach seem logical?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really what we're after, and I think we can work through the details if you folks are on board with the general concept.
Yeah. So we would have to start looking for a bond sometime in late 2025, get approval for that in 2025.
I think you would be looking,
Or March of 24, get approval at the town meeting for a bond.
And then
For 2 years of construction.
2026 or 2027.
So I'll put my banker's hat on, and my banker and loan people tell me, would we be better off to borrow money for the segment west, let's call it the west side segment. Borrow that money, liquid, and then if we get approved, borrow the money, start paying those bills, and then if we go to a bond for this east side to pay both of them on. Pay that.
So get a loan instead of a bond for.
Yes, bond for once, for a big bond instead of 2 bonds. It'd be cheaper in interest rate or interest. If the bond's taller or bigger, the interest rate's better.
In either case, the town would have to get a bond approval from the voters to borrow for longer than 5 years. Where the town chooses to borrow the money from, you have a lot of choices. You can go to the bond bank, which has its rates, or you can go through a commercial lenders.
Okay.
Okay.
But you need
You-
voter
you-
approval
you
for
can't-
either course.
Yeah, I mean, if we take a loan and then,
Well,
and then they say no to the bond, we got a problem.
No, a bank
No,
would
we-
not authorize a loan
we
without
have-
a bond vote.
But if we, well, the question is, if we ask in March of 2024, we want a bond for X number of millions of dollars to replace the west side lines, and they approve it, does it have to be a bond?
A
Or
bond
are they
is
approving to borrow the money? That's my question.
they're approving borrowing the money for longer than 5 years. So just
Okay.
think of that, a bond is any number of different type of loan packages. It's
Right,
not
okay.
just through the bond bank.
Right. Okay, that's my only question on that.
Yeah.
so,
I
okay.
wish we had the money in capital fund so we didn't have to bond.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's an option too,
If we
is,
had that-
yeah.
If we had that money in the capital fund, people would be killing us.
But I'm just saying, I wish we could have planned it so that, you know,
Yes.
over the years, we could have had that in there.
None of us were here around this table when
Yeah,
I
no.
decided that.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point, though, that it's not too late to be planning for that.
Right,
Really,
some of them
and the closer we are to shovel ready for a lot of these projects, and you're gonna hear that a lot from me, the more competitive we are, the more competitive we will be from other funding sources. So that we could probably
Right.
package up other funding sources to reduce the actual amount that needs to be borrowed. But we still need voter approval for that full bond
For the
amount,
total.
even if we don't end up borrowing the whole thing.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
And that's also a good, I think that's increases competitiveness for grant funding to get that kind of support.
Steve, when you mentioned a mile or so a year, have you had other projects where you said about 30 mid-sized to larger excavating companies? They see this still, boy, it's pretty aggressive, or yeah, we can do that?
I've done them, yeah, and I think it's aggressive, but I also think that you guys are under the unique position that you don't have a lot of other utilities under the street. Most municipalities have, you know, wastewater, stormwater, gas, communications, a whole bunch of things that you don't have to deal with, so I think they're gonna make a lot more progress here.
Okay.
Than they would in other places, so I think it's doable, I think it's,
So not
I think
having
it's
those
aggressive, but
utilities
it's
makes
doable.
it more attractive?
Yeah, yeah.
Less in the ground is less,
Okay,
you
right.
Yeah.
Less they have to deal
Less
with.
they have to deal with. Okay.
Less you have
Makes
to worry
sense.
about.
All right.
You know those digger guys.
I know, they're awful.
And
So-
gonna ask
Go
a
ahead.
question about, and it's beginning to be a large thing, I know I'm gonna, the girl to my right here is gonna be real upset with me, but when I call traffic, is some of these streets, you take my street, for instance, Pine Street, that's probably peaker, it's gonna be $25,000 to $50,000 just for traffic control.
Yeah, probably.
If we could have that with and without it, I mean, let's take Maple Street or Taylor Avenue. When they get ready to do that, do they really need during the day traffic control?
Close it at the end.
Just close it, the end, both ends. No traffic from 7 to 5 or whatever the,
Well, what do you do with the people who live in the house?
well, and they put a sign out for local, that means the
Local people
person,
only,
yeah, local,
Residents
residents only,
residents only.
street parking. And that's one thing I thought about a lot. Down on Main Street, West Street, yeah, you gotta have that, but.
So
these little
given the
side streets-
time that it's 9:30,
Yeah.
can we table that part of the
You
discussion
can.
for another time?
Good job.
Good
Yeah,
job.
yeah, and
Thank you.
those are all really
No,
good
I
points
appreciate
and
it.
things that we should talk about when we get into writing the bid specifications for each one of these streets, right? And all very good points, though.
So we're gonna close Pine Street and let Joel walk home for the whole.
Oh, I can
You can park at my house.
they closed it the night the lady got shot across the road and I got flying home.
So one of the outcomes for this agenda item is a select board guidance to Steve to help frame the next step of him coming back with a contract proposal
So moved,
to move this forward.
so moved.
Okay.
I don't wanna do one street every 15 years.
Second.
Okay.
There, now you can have some discussion.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, march ahead, Steve and Jill, march ahead.
Go for
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
5A?
5.
No,
Or 5.
Do I have to?
So update on the status of the Pine Street water line replacement project. It's you again, Steve.
It's me again?
It's you
Hi
again.
again. So we have been waiting on the Water Investment Division to give us an okay to put this out to bid. We've been calling and emailing, and what's happened, unfortunately, at the state level, they are overwhelmed. I was trying to explain to you folks how much money has come in, and what's happened is they've got hundreds of projects in front of a very few people at this point. So to get their attention's been difficult. We finally got an approval from Water. Sorry, we finally got an approval from the Water Investment Division. Last week, I put out the notice for early disadvantaged business enterprises, which normally have a 30-day window, but you have to wait. So you have to notify the disadvantaged businesses that may have services that they could provide to this type of project. In this case, we came up with 2. They have been notified. We have to, normally you'd wait 30 days. We've asked Cindy for a waiver to that. We'll only give them 15 days since there was only 2 potential bidders. She said yes. So somewhere around April 10th, we should officially, this project should officially hit the street in terms of being out to bid. Currently, and we can change the schedule at the moment. We have a draft schedule we put together based on Cindy's approval the other day. Bids are due right now, June 9th. Really, this depends on DWSRF's approval of the priority list application, which obviously we put in a month ago. And they won't come out until the end of June. So the town's going to be in this position. We're going to get the bids back. We're going to go through bid analysis. You're not going to be able to, or I don't think you would want to anyway, sign a contract with a contractor until you're comfortable you've got that funding. So we're not going to know that until probably the end of June. And we'll have to submit a funding application, and Valerie and I will have that ready to go before the notifications even come out on whether or not you guys are going to receive the money. I'm pretty sure you're going to. I think you're going to score pretty high on the list, but that's a guess at this point. So that's kind of where we stand.
USDA told us that on West Street too at 17, didn't they, Baker? We had a lot of egg on our face.
That hurt.
We'll see.
That hurt.
We'll see. And we'll have to see what the bids come back like too. I mean, unfortunately, I would have liked to have done this, 2.5 months ago. And I think we would have been in better shape in terms of the bids, but we're
We also might be
there.
surprised.
Right. I hope so.
Don't hold your breath.
Surprised how high they are. But number 4.
There's most of the other projects are sitting in the same spot we are. They're waiting for the state to give them the go so that they can actually go out to bid. I am seeing stuff in works in progress. I am seeing stuff on the state bids website, but it's like just starting to come out now. It's usually so much bigger in January and February than I've seen this year. So
maybe if June of 2024, what we just talked about in number 4 will be on their desk or be mailed to them. So we'll have an answer by December of 2024.
Hope so.
Okay.
Do you need any, just as update, so, because we don't need to make a motion for that.
No motion. Thank you very much, Jill and Steve.
Yes, a lot of good work there.
Absolutely.
Now 5A.
Now 5A, which I have 8 from up above, but hey.
The TA report has an outline of the recommended conditions for the Water Commission.
I make a motion, we approve the new water service connection for 118 Firehouse Drive, all earth renewables with the conditions from our water operator's recommendation.
I will second that.
So 2 seconds then. Any discussion?
I just here somewhere, I got them all in front of me, Valerie, but now that we've switched it around, I don't.
Here.
It says that, above, the service line will need a backflow.
It's all our standard.
But I thought we discussed it with me arguing against it, that we were going to not hook up, meters don't hook up to fire protection sprinklers. They bypass the sprinkler system. I just don't want to have a policy that And these, if we continue to grow Firehouse Drive, which I hope we will, another bigger building. A sprinkler system saves that building, saves that fire department. We have to go there, a lot of time and infrastructure, and maybe an owner will rebuild if he's very little damage. But I don't want a sprinkler system be the cost driver of, oh, if we burns now, I'm not gonna put a sprinkler system in because if it burns, I gotta pay for all that water.
You don't have a choice.
No, so the meter would go, the meter would go after the 6-inch sprinkler. What we believe that they'll do, they need to supply a set of drawings to show that they're gonna size the line down for the domestic use. So
Okay.
a 6-inch meter would be a dangerous monster inside of a building.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
what we
just
will-
like we did in the firehouse, we came off the side of the 6-inch and put the meter. We pulled the 2-inch line off and put 2-inch meter on it.
Which is much more cost effective. The only time they're ever gonna use that sprinkler system is when there's a fire. So we're not worried about that water use at all, as as the water operators and representing the water department. Also it would be horrendous to try to support a 6-inch meter.
Well,
It's just
I'm
that.
just reading what the bullet says here.
Yeah, the
Okay.
way I read it, it sounded like
The
the
sprinkler and all
sprinklers.
other water services will be metered by the town.
Okay,
And reading,
When I read it, I was confused, and you clarified it when you said it,
thank you.
takeoff.
If I'm fine with what you just said.
But I think it needs to be it needs to be worded different than it is in the paper we got.
okay,
That would be helpful to clarify.
yep. If they would
Because the
provide a
next bullet
drawing
point-
that shows that it necks down after the fire service, we just don't want them to pull a bunch of hose bibs off of it and then meter it.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
Everything that's not sprinkler oriented has to be metered.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. I mean,
For some, go ahead.
we've had a sprinkler system in our bank since 1997, I hope it'll never be turned on. Never,
I would say it.
but it's not metered, so
Right.
No, they aren't.
they aren't for
Typically.
fire protection.
So I'm just curious, is there, with these recommendations, Jill, does that mean you need to be on site to know that these things are happening?
Well, that's,
Yeah, it says the water
that's-
operator has to be contacted.
Okay,
but that won't be, the meter portion of it won't be until
right.
further down the road. I would imagine the service will be put in the next few weeks, and then when they do all that, it'll be middle of summer before that happens.
No, I just wanted to be sure that we had, if we're asking them to do this. that
Oh, they
we're
know.
confirming.
Jill and I had a conversation a
Good,
couple
okay.
days ago. They know.
Good.
Yeah, so they were in there shooting grade, when was that, last Friday? Late last week.
Yeah,
Late last
Thursday
week,
or
so
Friday.
Cyrus popped right over to see what they were, to check up on them and see how they were
Good.
digging and watching them dig around and possibly break things and saying, okay, no horsing around near the water lines. This is the public water system. Please be careful. When you go to make this connection, call me 2 days in advance, at least, just so that we can witness the connection, see that there's nothing gross going into the water lines, making everybody sick.
So,
Perfect.
on that note, I was over there talking to him, and like I said, I completely spaced before I called you, and I made a trip out, and I came back, and I said, you better call, and I said, furthermore, you're sitting on top of a water line. There's no, the water line that goes down over Stony Hill is not on their plans. There's no location for that on their plans. They didn't even know it existed.
You mean the one that goes to Woodland?
Yes.
It's a brand new one.
Ooh.
They know it now,
Okay.
and I showed them where it went, so, but that was the other thing, you talked about the, power lines, they weren't on the plans either, and that's not our fault. That's whoever drew them up.
They went to put a bucket in the ground. Did they call DigSafe and did they call the town's water department? No. Do you see what happens?
Yeah, but they wouldn't have marked those power lines anyway, because there's nothing in them, so they couldn't have
Yeah,
marked
you're
them.
probably right.
But
Exactly.
I mean, all of that stuff was put in, it's all on plans. But it was never incorporated into the building plan, so it wasn't on their GPS Otherwise, they would have known right where it was. Cause they're everything, the whole building and everything in that is GPS, and that's why they wanted to check and make sure the elevation of the water line was correct with what they had. And I'm assuming it was because they weren't complaining.
Yeah, because there is a set of plans for the firehouse drive and for the water line that goes all the way over to.
But it wasn't incorporated in All Earth Renewables plans. So they didn't know where the existing water line was, other than what, I'm guessing where the curb box was.
Yeah, so they
And
probably.
they didn't know where the power was, and I'm assuming they don't know where the storm drainage is that's in there, if that's the case.
So they probably need to take a big breath, get a couple sets of plans so that they have everything, and look at what they design and make sure that they're not trying to put things where other things already exist.
I think Kevin Harper has been trying to do that, because he's asked me questions about where certain things are located from the Stony Hill plans.
Tell them in the
Right.
ground.
But again, if they're getting ready to dig, they
Oh,
need
they're
to
digging.
do a dig safe ticket.
And he should have the plan.
And then the water lines can get marked out.
Yes.
Okay,
You have a motion.
we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I don't see anybody opposed, so we are good.
Excellent. Great.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Steve and Jill, very much for all of your
Yeah.
work on this stuff.
You're welcome.
Is there anything left for water, or did we get through it all?
We got through it
I
all.
think it's all, that's.
Yay!
You can go home.
Yeah,
Stay
It's
home.
only 9:45, you can hang out, you know.
That's all right. I've got a couple things to get ready for tomorrow morning. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, Steve.
Good night, Steve.
Night.
Right.
All
Steve.
right, number 6. Continued appointment and or reappointment of town officers or representatives. There's an
So
updated-
online and in the report is an updated spreadsheet of who responded with interest to be reappointed. The only negative that we received was from Jeff Lundstedt for the Planning Commission. I'm still waiting to hear back from some other candidates for reappointment.
You said I'm not contacted regarding the design review commission. I said I could do that again.
Okay, super. I figured. And also Peaker being on the equipment committee.
I figured that was a given.
Yeah, it probably
We
is.
were
But
asking you, we were just gonna reappoint you.
just
Yeah,
thought we,
Peaker's not
Check.
not
Say
allowed
thank
to
you.
leave that one.
You were on vacation, you don't know how lucky you got.
You don't have, you're on about 6 more officers. I think you're fence viewer now.
and Joel, speaking of fence viewer, are
Yeah,
you interested in being reappointed?
We had a lot of fence viewing last
I was
year.
gonna say,
I see a lot of
what
fence
do you
during the.
do?
Well, I only know of once since I've been on the board, there was
We've done-
between Santos and Hills over on Burpee Road.
Yeah, we
Where
did
they
that
went
one.
out.
Yeah, we did that one, then we had doing down South Bristol. But yeah, I'll do it again.
And how about solid waste district? What are your thoughts
Yeah,
about that?
I thought last week I made a motion for you and I thought we.
Okay,
2 weeks ago.
I must have missed it. Good.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He volunteered you
You
too.
added her name, that's why she forgot.
No, she was.
I was the
already
only
on
one
it.
voted no the other night though, Valerie.
What was that?
I was the only one voted no in the solid waste district meeting. For that proposal we're gonna do. Something is wrong.
Yeah. So there's quite a few people we
And-
haven't heard back from. Are you anticipating yeses from all of them, Brenda? Brenda? or
Probably.
Valerie?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably, yeah.
So I was a little confused on Ted's. Does Ted want to stay on only until 2025?
Yeah, his term, that's when his term runs out.
He doesn't want to be reappointed, because he said he doesn't want to be reappointed.
We would
And
cross that
2025.
as we get closer to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little premature right now.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want a motion to reappoint anybody else who said yes that we haven't already reappointed?
So
I think that would be good. Yeah.
I'll second Michelle's motion.
Excellent.
Discussion.
As I noted that Diane Cushman is willing to be reappointed as health officer, but she really does not want to do a 3-year term. And is hoping she's willing to stay on until we can find someone else.
So why don't, knowing that, why don't we leave it open and search for somebody else? And just,
The state really expects to have a town health officer in place.
well, you know,
We
by
expect the
default,
state to do a lot of
by
things.
default, it
The select
goes
board
to
is-
the select board chair.
That's right.
No, I think Diane needs
Just like the
to.
dog warden, right, Bruce?
I make a motion, we appoint Diane for 1 year and continue to
Search for a new
Search.
person. Thank you, Joel.
lightly search for 2024.
Oh, I got a certificate and a badge and everything.
Yeah, figured it out.
Yeah. We need to do something about this.
Yeah, look out, he'll be out stopping
Yikes.
cars, flashing his badge out there.
Right.
There's a whole episode on Andy Griffith about that, the
Okay,
the
Barney.
sewer inspector.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
So we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'd second
You
Michelle.
seconded Michelle's. Okay, we had discussion. So
And we
now.
amended Diane's, is that
Yeah,
what we did?
right.
Just Diane. All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right.
So
Thank
just to
you
be
to all.
clear, so Michelle made the first motion, seconded by Joel, and then Joel amended the motion to limit Diane's term to 1 year.
Yeah,
Correct.
and I heard Michelle say, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, number 7, review and approval of the March 13, 2023 meeting minutes.
Are those the ones I sent to you, Val? With
Yep.
some Comments, okay.
I did not look at them, so,
I looked at them. I thought they were fine.
good. Oh, this
Did
is
you
with our
catch a bunch
new,
of things, Michelle?
I had 3 or 4, but some of them were just questions for Val, because I was asking about the conflict of interest policy and,
Okay.
saying, I don't think they need to actually leave the room, they just need to leave the select board table, because they're entitled to comment
hear.
on a topic. They just can't vote on it, because in the minutes, they said we had to leave the room, and I said, I don't think that's really
Well, I
the
know
case.
when I bid on the old fire station, I didn't have to leave the room. I
Right, you just had to
leave the table.
sit
Right.
in the
I
public.
guess it depends on the legal advice received at any given time, because that was legal advice several years ago. And the rationale being that maybe it depends on the nature of the conflict too, that it's not a broad brush kind of thing, because in some instances, as was explained years ago, that the mere presence of a person who's got a conflict could create an undue influence over the board's final decision making, whether it's through eye contact or body language or some other thing, even without participating directly in a discussion. So
Somebody's got laser points through the back of your head.
That's right.
Yeah.
Through your forehead.
but that might not be a risk in all instances. So maybe it's situational.
Yep.
Okay,
Val, how did you think the minutes were? These are minutes from our new minute taker.
I'm gonna take her, yeah.
I was pleased.
Yeah.
I see she's not here tonight, what's she gonna do, watch the meeting and then?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, we tape it and give it to her. Yeah. Great.
Biting my tongue.
All right. What's next? Let's see, item 8.
We need to approve the minutes, or are
Do
we
we-
holding off?
Yeah, let's.
No, we can approve the minutes, right?
so
Yeah.
moved.
Second.
With Michelle's
Whatever
adjustments.
Michelle's changes.
Okay. So do you have the second? Do the second, okay. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. All right, here we go. Now we're authorizing the accounts payable and any liquor or tobacco licenses.
And I have 2 additional ones other than the ones that are listed there.
No, they're not on the agenda. Mm.
Yeah, they came in today.
There's that.
So we
Okay,
don't
what are
have
they
to-
to?
Bristol Beverage, it's their second class, their tobacco and tobacco substitute license. And then for ZG Holdings, which is Zero Gravity Craft Brewing for Polgar. It's a special event permit.
Special event permit.
So moved.
Second. What's the second class tobacco license?
No, it's a second class liquor license,
And
and then you have a
tobacco.
tobacco license, and then you have a tobacco substitute license.
So what's the tobacco substitute?
Vapes.
Vapes, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was cannabis.
No,
No, that's
we don't
special.
get cannabis
Yeah.
for beer.
We don't do that.
Well, that's what I,
We just get the regular.
We can't have a bus in here.
no,
Okay, so we have, how do we do this? So authorize, you're signing, Ines to come in and
Yeah.
sign. We've got the special events permits, we don't sign them, you sign them,
don't
but you
sign
just
it.
We don't
wanna.
sign anymore, just make a motion
No,
to
just make a
approve.
motion, because I push a button.
So moved.
for the 4.
For the 4 of them.
Yep, so,
Second.
okay, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, anyone opposed? Nope. Okay. And then the accounts payable, do you need the number? Or do you?
It's
You have it?
80,190.54.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am.
She read that right.
All right. I wonder how she knew that. I got it right here.
And is that a separate motion from the liquor licenses?
No, we
We don't
We don't need to do
approve
that,
those.
okay.
We just
Sorry,
sign
I'll figure
those.
this out. You think I haven't been here
We
for
have
3
to-
years?
We have to read them so that
Okay.
so they know what it is, but
Okay.
those are all approved. by
Actually, there should be an
department.
8 in AA then, if you're gonna do it that way. Because we approved number 8, the 4 tobaccos, but
No, we don't, we
Well, it's
just
all
sign
listed
it,
as
we don't
one.
approve
Right.
it.
Right,
that's approving it.
Yes.
okay. So select board roundtable. Ian?
Yeah, I just have an update for the bus shelters. Val and I visited the Yestermorrow campus this morning and met with the TVT representative, Mary Claire, and then we got to see them in person. I'll share my screen and just give you some other photos that I took. This is the living roof one. It's quite large, but it was nice.
That would be over by
And-
Shaw's?
Yes, this would be the one in front of the Walgreens, the large Walgreens wall. And I've sent this to Parmelo representatives and they like it. They're excited about it.
It's nicer than it looked in the other pictures, I will say.
Yeah, it's a cedar construction for the main part of it. The boards that I'm standing on there are all pressure treated as is underneath. And this has been sitting here for about a year and it's weathered quite well.
Simple. Not even.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, if they like it.
We also talked to them about potential for updating or changing, making modifications to them. And they're willing to do that if we had specific things
Somebody waiting for the bus?
in the cold.
The short bus.
Oh, the nice.
Easy.
Oh, nice. So there's
You did catch
there's
that.
that.
man.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry,
I
Ian, did
heard
you say
that.
yes, they could make modifications if needed?
Yes, if we had specifics, they were willing to do that. We would just talk to them about that. And I think it would be based on the property owner and what they felt might be necessary at their location. So that was
Did
the
you-
living roof.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
go
you
ahead.
do have other pictures, okay.
Yeah. So that was the living roof. We probably wouldn't put a living roof on it just because of the complexities of looking after that. There didn't seem to be, Val noticed, there didn't seem to be any edging to it. So I don't know how a living roof would stay on the roof, given the angle. So I think we would probably just leave it. It's up against that building anyway. So I think we would just leave it as that.
So
One of the
Oh
things
my
on
God,
that.
when you wanna redo a living roof, don't ask me. We shoveled one of them off.
So
Holy crap.
living roof is dirt with
Plants.
plants?
Yes.
Okay.
Grass.
Yeah.
Grass, plants, yeah.
There's
Gotcha.
a membrane on top of it, so you could put stuff. I think we would probably just leave it as the membrane. It's against that Walgreens building anyway. You would never see it from any area unless you were like maybe up in an apartment building or something on
Don't
the
they do
back
it for
of Main Street.
insulation? Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's like
It's an insulation
Yeah.
reason.
Like a rubber
Yeah, 'cause so
kind
much
of thing.
heat. You're gonna lose so much heat.
So we're cheating that one.
Yeah. And that roof is pitched enough, Ian, so it's not a flat
Yeah.
roof on that other one, right?
No, it's not a flat. It's various angles, and there was no snow on it when we were there, so it's all slid off. This is the art one.
Oh, that's the art one?
That's the one for in front of,
The
This would be
school?
the one in front of the old school, correct?
High school, okay.
across from the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
So it's got shelves. You could do a little lending library or whatever. Tom did talk about the potential of putting power in there too, since there is power to that existing Bell display infrastructure. So you could run
What would you
power to
need power
this.
for? Just for lights, you mean? For like
Yeah,
lights?
lighting, or if you wanted to charge your phone perhaps, or
Oh,
something like that. I mean, I don't think people would be plugging in and using a great deal of power from it, so I
Right.
don't think Tom would need to worry about that. But it was nicely done. Again, this is cedar and then pressure treated for the bottom of it. That's
So
the art on the back.
So the first two you've showed us, and the third one you're gonna show us are wood. When they become to get repaired, who has to do the repair and who has to do the cost?
We do. We would.
TVT does. They're responsible for it.
Oh.
Any
everything.
maintenance, they're responsible. Our only responsibility is a little bit of snow clearance, depending on the location, and the installation of the shelters.
It's just really a concrete pad or any kind of other groundwork that's needed
Right.
for preparation.
And for these, because they're made of pressure treated, they don't really need concrete pads. Probably digging down into soil, gravel lined, and then setting these right on top, which property owners have said that they're amenable to.
Well, the one in front of Shaw's would be on pavement, right?
No.
Correct, and they need to redo that anyway because it's sort of a little bit destroyed there, so they need to redo that. We talked about this is bare plywood, covering that with something. This has been sitting out there for 6 months or a year, and it's weathering okay. A few things have come off in terms of the art design, but we can fix that. They also talked about in terms of who designed this, they wanted like this live wood edge for the seating, and it looks like it's coming off. So he's willing to update that and accommodate as needed.
Okay.
So that's that one. And then the last one is sort of the bike one, which is the largest one. It's not super exciting, I have to say. I know that sending the original design to Kevin to look at, he wasn't super thrilled with it either. But I don't know if Kevin wasn't interested at his location, whether we would maybe look at this for another location. So it's a very angled roof. The whole idea is this one. It's a large open space. You'd be able to hang bikes, and you could install, or Yestermar would install seating and things like that. But this is sort of the least exciting, I think, of the three.
And one suggestion too was perhaps installing bike racks. So, and we talked about perhaps maybe this being up at Bristol Works, and perhaps that could be covered storage for bikes with bike racks tucked down along that wall.
Yeah. And there definitely is the bike ped committee is working on the sidewalk inventory, but also bike rack inventory. And they did talk about at their last meeting the potential for storing bikes somewhere in town. And so maybe this would be able to provide that. You could provide it. Right. I mean, we could open up your garage for public use, but I don't know.
No, not mine.
What do they mean by storage? Like, so for the day, like if they were taking the bus, they would leave their bike there? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know the specifics, but they had mentioned it at the last meeting. So they're going to inventory that when they do the sidewalk. So yeah, that's the bike shelters. I think they're all very nice. The whole idea about this project is they're trying to get something more interesting for bus shelters to accommodate, obviously, their riders. They want to do like a sort of a better places kind of thing. I did look at the alternates, and a lot of their shelters, or at least a few, have been custom made. They run anywhere between $10,000 and $17,000. So the one in New Haven, Joel, that you took a photo, I think was about $15,000 or $16,000. So they're not cheap.
Doesn't seem like enough.
Doesn't seem like quite enough. Don't seem like quite enough.
Well, it's that would be money that we would need to spend if we wanted to go that route.
And then we have to maintain.
And I think seeing these in person,
I guess
I think I like them more than I did just seeing the photos. So
did Tri-Valley who put the one in New Haven? Did New Haven pay for that or Tri-Valley?
TVT did, and they get government grants and have a town match.
Well, I mean, I've had more people about these bike things or these shelters bus shelters we saw a month ago and said, you are not actually gonna put those around, are you, those wooden things? I just said, what do you think about it? And they go, just don't. That's why I took that picture. I was out there the other day. I said, I gotta take a picture. This is pretty. You can look through it. If there's something going on in one of those, that wooden one over by the high school or over by Bristol Works, I'm not sure the neighborhood's gonna know if there's kids in that or not. I got you, the police drive by this one, they're gonna know if someone's in there horsing around or just waiting for a bus.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only one that was really closed in was the bike one, wasn't it? The bike,
Right.
the others are pretty.
The other
open.
two are very open. I mean, your complaints about the first one was that it was too open. So,
Well, I could support ones like this all day long on my phone that I sent you guys, but I couldn't support those wooden ones. I'm sorry, but
Well, I think if the landowners are open to it, if they're happy with the design, I don't see how we can tell them they can't do it.
Well, it's just that the proposal is that the town would be paying for the installation and the suggestion on the table is using ARPA funding to do that.
Right.
Right. I mean, if the maintenance is up to Tri-Valley, and like I said, if the landowners like them,
I'm
on board with it.
I only want to make sure, once they start looking dilapidated or that they are
Right.
maintained or they're removed.
Yeah. Removal is
I'm
certainly
looking
an
at
option.
maintenance long-term.
We can remove them. If we put them there, we can remove them.
Well, there's,
If,
I suppose. Okay.
I'd like
If
to
they
know that.
become
in writing.
if they become a hazard, if we feel they're a hazard and they don't fix them,
Right.
We would want to include that in whatever maintenance agreement gets drawn up and signed and agreed by everybody.
My
Yeah,
experience of working with Mary Claire, they take very good. They
Right.
take
I mean,
very good care of their things.
TVT doesn't want that to happen. It's a new thing for them. They engaged Jester Morrow because they wanted to do this Better Places kind of thing, making this more interesting than their traditional shelters that they've had built. And so they don't want this to fail either. Obviously, if it does, or if there are problems in a few years' time, I totally understand. Like wood doesn't last as long as a welded metal structure. But I'm willing to give this a try to see what happens. I do think they're interesting, but I can understand the pushback. They're far more
You can say the word
contemporary
ugly.
than
You can say ugly.
They're bunky.
I would say they're ugly, they're
different.
Tell the truth.
they're more modern,
You can use the word ugly.
contemporary. I don't think they're
Yeah.
ugly, I just don't, I look at them and say, they aren't very protective. You got a roof, but the wind and rain can come in on the sides of it,
Yeah.
so it's like, but it's better than what they got right now, so.
Right. Right. I mean, knowing that it was going to come
I
from
think
Jester
we're-
Morrow, I figured it would be
I think we're settling
different.
because they're free. And I just think we're settling because they're free.
I don't look at it as settling. Again, like I said, if the landowners are happy with them, TBT is going to take care of them. I don't have a problem. If you're asking us to vote, I don't have a problem with
If
it.
we had to pay 15,000 for that one versus the glass one, which one would we buy?
Well, that's different. We're not
That
looking
would
at
be-
spending that kind of money
that's
at
right.
all.
We're spending some money, we're spending the
But not
voters' money.
15,000.
No, but we're
And that would only
spending,
get us one and we're getting three. Bang for your buck.
they even got that one for free because TVT put it in.
Or they probably did some sort of match. I think that's how it generally goes. But it's a much more. I asked about that, and I said, usually TVT would apply for grant money for it, and usually there's a town match. But it is a longer process to do that, and we can definitely go that direction. I think if we had pushback from the property owners from any of the designs, I think then that's what, like maybe the one we would commission one to go at Firehouse Drive, since there was question about that particular design of it. So maybe that's where we could explore having one commissioned and having it built. But again, they might want something that's outside of the one that they have a New Haven just because they feel that's far too traditional.
Doesn't match.
They might
Yeah.
want something that's more interested in, that would fit in with the new construction over there.
Right. It's an option. We don't have to take all three of them. We could choose two.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm because they're presented to us, I'm trying to see if we can get all three, but I want the property owners to be happy. I'm not
Right.
in any way trying to force them to take these because they are free. I don't feel that we're settling. I'd like to try these, and if people like them and want them and use them, I think we should at least try it, because we've had this opportunity. And TDT they came to us and they're excited about partnering with Bristol with this project. So, but it's a non-traditional way of going, I think.
Well,
that was
at
my
least
update.
like the three that you showed each property owner was only the wooden ones. You didn't show them the glass one.
Well, the glass
We don't
one's
have
not an
the glass.
option.
I know we don't, but
Yeah.
what if Pomelo said, I'd rather have, if I got to choose, my choices would be the glass or
Then
Tom.
he could buy a glass one.
Okay, let's vote. I'm voting no. You guys can vote yeah. Go ahead.
Well, does it need
No,
a
it's not
vote?
even a vote
It's
here.
not a
No,
vote.
it's no vote. It's just an update.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an update. All right. Anything else, Ian?
No, that was it.
All right. Thank you. Beaker?
I'm good.
Beaker's good. Michelle?
I think I'm good. You good?
Jolie?
Just, Sharon's gonna shoot me, so Sharon, I won't let you stab me in the back. I'll let you stab me this way. I'm getting people say, COVID's not completely over, but it's time to open the office 5 days a week. Whether if it's a staffing issue or not, I don't know. But I've heard from people, isn't it time to open the office 5 days a week? At least, so.
Well, they said it at town meeting too.
Yeah.
One person said it at a town meeting, yeah.
So just,
I mean, there are other town offices that are closed on Fridays, correct?
A lot of them are
A
closed.
lot of
on
them are
Friday.
closed on Fridays.
but you're here though, right? You're here working, everybody's here working, it's just
Not every Friday,
not every Friday.
no. I mean, I'd be willing to open half a day, but I'm the only one that's here at 8 o'clock, so if I'm not here, it's not open.
Right,
So
yeah,
it's hard to say consistently what hours would be.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. I mean, are you getting phone calls saying, why aren't you open? I mean, are you
no,
receiving
because
anything?
most people are pretty well trained by now.
Right.
I mean, I can
We
see,
get them here and there, but
I can see for people coming in and want to do title search like Michelle does, or this or that, they have it set and they know, can't go to this town or that town on these days. Little towns, you can only go a few days a week. But, somebody wants to come in and pay their taxes or their dog, and I got Fridays off, oh, go down the door, it's closed. So that's all I think, it's time to
Go
reopen.
never in the bank, go to the bank on a holiday when I'm working and they won't let me
You
in.
guys get more days off than the bankers do now.
Yeah.
The town employees get more days off than we do now. So. We don't get the day after Thanksgiving off.
Anything else, Jolie?
No, that'll do it.
Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Loris Kilburn. I meant to do that at our last meeting, and I forgot. Loris was a big part of the fabric of this community, and she's gonna be missed a lot.
Yep.
I'm really glad to hear about the potholes. I had a couple of people come to me about potholes, when are they gonna get filled in? And it's great to hear that that's gonna be happening. So those are the only two.
They've been doing it.
I know, but it's never on the street that somebody,
No.
the person,
It's never on
it's
your-
Never
never
where
on the
my
right
pothole is.
street, right?
They just have to give Bruce a bucket with some patch.
and
Roll
it's
it
a
around,
torch,
would you?
keep the-
You wait long enough, they keep coming back, so,
Yes.
With this time of year at my house, it's the ditches you gotta worry about.
Well, it's a very good entertainment for my dog, who has discovered the windows in our house now, so she gets to bark at people when they go by. I believe, is there any other business, Sharon? Or Sharon, you're Valerie, that's Sharon.
I have nothing to add to
Administrative
that.
You have to do administrative.
TA reports, all right? I'm skipping right over stuff tonight. I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
And correspondence.
And there's just a handful of items listed under the other business for your interest, but nothing that needs to be discussed.
And Valerie, may I say, 2 weeks ago when we discussed, Peter was down in sunny wherever, and we had the dog thing. I asked person today, how's it been? They went like that, perfect. They go,
Excellent.
dog in 2 weeks, it dark, maybe a half an hour.
Oh, good.
They said it's just been perfect. So
Wow, I'm glad to
maybe
hear
it
that.
all that happened for, so, but she said things have been perfect.
We received an email update also from the neighbors that there's been much improvement.
Yeah.
That you haven't heard anything either? No? Well, no news is good news, huh? Okay.
Yeah, they calling us, it's like, you hear from my house.
You know, I heard that a lot when we were building our house.
Yeah.
I can't see it from my house.
So now we'll see if he registers the second dog.
Right.
You'll only do that to somebody you know, though, like if I call
you
him
do it
up.
to me.
You would do it to me.
All right, yes,
I'll
yeah,
make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
all right.
Ian, before you go, did you get it? You didn't answer. Did you look at those pictures I showed you about those half walls at the bank?
I did.
Nothing?
No, I didn't have any need for them. I was trying to think of where they could go.
Gotta cut them up. They move around. You don't need one for a service station, do you, Peter? Those half walls there in the bank.
All right, so we have a motion and a second
I think Michelle
to
did.
adjourn.
Aye.
Aye. We are good.
So Joel, you had no takers on those?
Not yet, no. They're gonna get.
Something in for Porch Forum.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe.
yeah,
Silence?
they are. They pick right up, you pick them up and you set them on a cart and move them around. I mean, they're rugged. Two guys got to pick up one end, put them on a furniture dolly. But if anybody wants them, they're free.
Wow.
Not smashed up and thrown out the door.
Chairs, you have any chairs?
I'm going to have about 12 of them here pretty soon.
Thank you, guys.
And do we
Thank
need a nice cherry conference table? I got one in Brandon, it's beautiful.
Is it as big as this?
It's bigger, so it doesn't have rounded corners like that, it's got just a little rounded corner, but it's bigger than, it's as big as this one.
Yeah, I mean, typically a wooden table, you
I'll-
don't find one this big. I'd
take
love
it
to
from
have
you.
it here.
Yeah.
And then
Put
we
in
could
for
just
it.
I'll tell you what
move
you
this
do
one
need.
back there.
You do need quieter chairs in that room. All I
Yeah.
can hear
Well,
you
I've got-
guys knocking the
I got-
underneath of your
I kept
chairs.
jingling mine just to keep you awake, Ian.
I'll have a dozen of them here middle of June, so.
Good.
Cool.
We could
We
do
got
with
a
those.
table with some new chairs.
But
Well,
down
Bruce,
Great.
you better take a couple when you
Hey,
come
would you
in.
want?
Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Bruce, I got-
Yeah.
Good night.
Joel, you gonna
See you
set that
later.
thing
Thanks,
down?
Jimmy.
Oh, I don't know how to.
Bye,
Don't
bye,
leave.
Jen.